Hello.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent.
Good evening.
Hey, I'm happy that my camera's working again because it was not last night.
I
My
love the background.
Yeah, my background was working, but my face wouldn't show up for some reason.
Oh. Can't have that.
Yeah. So let's see who else we have here.
Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Tim, you gonna allow us to share a screen?
So should I get permission to?
Oops.
Who's running it for you, Suffolk?
Sorry, I had my volume down. Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
All right. Who should I send the
Chris,
the
to
control
me, to me.
Okay.
Chris Gedrich.
Are you still the host?
Let's see. That still says disabled.
Yeah, no, it's not letting me do it for some reason. I'm trying to troubleshoot.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tim.
Yeah, Joe, are you still the host?
I should be.
Okay.
Yep. And Chris
Yes.
Gedrich.
Gedrich?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. Let's see. Let me... Bear with me one moment.
Good evening, Mr. Bertrand.
Yep. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good.
Better now that I'm on my computer as compared to my phone last night. It was a little tight last night. I was like, what am I looking at?
Okay.
The dog's not near you this time, Chip? No, he's muted. You're muted.
Yeah, now I'm not. Excuse me?
Your dog's not in the vicinity, though?
Not mine, my daughter's dog. That's what happens when you babysit.
Okay.
Dog sit. I've now closed the door
See.
and he's whining on the other side.
Let's see.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Are we ready to get started?
Yeah, just give me a second to get the right page up.
How are you, Lynn?
Good. How you doing, Christian?
Excellent, thanks.
That's not, is that showing the presentation format?
It has the screens on the side and it shows it like it's an 8.5 by 11.
It's not letting me pick the presentation screen. Bear with me. I apologize. Let's see if I get the right screen up.
While you're working on that, we can go ahead and get started with introductions from our side of the table. My name's Lynn Stapleton, and I work for Left Field, and we're the OPMs for the project. Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
My name is Joe Bertrand. I'm the chairman of the Permanent Building Committee for the town of Wakefield.
My name is Chip Tarbell. I'm the secretary of the Permanent Building Committee from the town of Wakefield.
Good evening. My name is Doug Lyons. I'm the superintendent of schools.
Tim O'Brien, Director of Facilities for Wakefield Public Schools.
Good evening, Helen Fantini, Project Manager with SMMA.
And Tim Baker, Project Manager with Left Field.
Christian, would you like us to start?
Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, again, I just want to say on behalf of Suffolk, good evening and a heartfelt thank you for this opportunity. We're thrilled to be with you. My name is John Fish. I'm the president and CEO of Suffolk Construction. I say very proudly we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year, and we're honored and privileged to be in front of the Wakefield Memorial High School Building Committee. What I would say is just by way of introduction, we understand clearly how important this building is to the town of Wakefield, its residents and its future students. And we take that extremely serious. As a severe dyslexic, I understand the impact that an educational facility can have on the youth. And we understand the importance of the next generation of graduates of the school. So you'll hear that threaded through our presentation this evening. So with that, we want to turn it over to Christian, who's heading up our team for this presentation. So Christian, I'd like to turn to you.
Thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present for the new Wakefield Memorial High School project this evening. We're very excited to be part of such a significant project for Wakefield. I'm Christian Reardon. I'm the COO of Education for Suffolk. I build schools. Specifically, I built K-12 149A schools. I built over a dozen 149A schools myself. Schools are my passion, if you haven't kind of get that just yet. The team we have in front of you today understands what it takes to build around your community and in highly congested areas, specifically very similar to the Wakefield High School site. You're going to hear a lot more specific experiences for similar projects and with your current partners from our team, very familiar working with SMMA and Left Field. These experiences, coupled along with the understanding of the 149A delivery method, makes our team your best partner for your high school. Suffolk has completed almost $3 billion worth of 149A projects, which translates into about 7 million square feet. What does that mean to you? That means there's not going to be a learning curve with our team for your town. Our team has an average of 26 years of experience in construction. The timing of your project could not be better for our team. I'm here to guarantee this team for your Wakefield Memorial High School project. So all this ties back to why this team will be your best partner. We understand how important the schematic design estimate is for the life of your project. The schematic design number is the number your community needs to believe in and live by. So I'll personally work shoulder to shoulder with your team to get the message out to your community to make the Wakefield Memorial High School a huge success. Our team is led by Vice President Chris Gedrich. Chris and the team have come up with a great plan with a significant savings that I think you're very interested to hear about. Chris, you want to introduce yourself and have the team do the same?
Thanks, Christian. Sure, I'm Chris. I couldn't be more excited to share this team with you tonight and be a part of the group. Now, I'll be your lead contact throughout the project. I have over 20 years experience with Suffolk, 28 in the business. And with me today is my senior leadership team for the Quincy Public Health and Safety Headquarters, which is a 149A public facility, $130 million of cost and just under 300,000 square feet. This team has been working exclusively together for the last several years and will be leading us through the Wakefield Memorial High School project. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening, everybody. My name is Bill Byrd. I'm a superintendent with Suffolk Construction. I've been here for 24 years now. Actually, I have 37 years of experience in the business. And I've done more than half my years have been involved in school projects. And I really hope to add Wakefield Memorial to one of those. Steve.
Good evening. I'm Steve Evans. and I'm here to make your lives easier along with Principal McLeod throughout the building process. I'm a senior PM, and I'll be working with Bill Byrd basically on the day-to-day operations out on site, running the PM team. I have 18 years of experience with Suffolk, and I've worked on multiple projects with the team here.
Hello, everybody. I am David Slamsky. I run our pre-construction services for all our institutional work, which does mean that I've worked on all of our 149A schools over the past several years. I've got 28 years in the industry, mostly in estimating, and about 18 with Suffolk.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dara Frederick. I am a national senior manager with our trade partner diversity team. I've had the privilege of working with this entire team for the 3.5 years that I've been here at Suffolk. I come to this role with 10+ years experience within economic development, building diversity strategies to drive equitable and sustainable solutions. So I'm really excited to be here, and thank you so much for having us. I'll turn it back to you, Chris.
Thanks, all. Well, as you can see, you got a pretty good seasoned team here. But let me start with my senior team with Bill and Steve, who I've worked just under a couple of decades with them here at Suffolk. They're very well versed in complex, tight constrained projects throughout the city of Boston and Massachusetts, and especially 149A projects. This team doesn't require a learning curve in that performance of the 149A or K through 12, as Christian had alluded to. Bill and I started back, in a few years back when we started in the education world here at Suffolk in the early 2000s. So we've been working together for quite some time. Since then, we've worked on very complex occupied spaces, zero lot line projects, building highly effective teams that are unified around ownership, trade partners, and designers. To us, it's really about the relationships in the team. The building just follows along, So we understand what it takes not only to build buildings, but how to build those strong relationships. And we do that through communications, transparency, flexibility, and this is what we bring to the Wakefield Memorial High School. Oops, my apologies. So most recent experience, as some of you are familiar with, is the Saugus Middle High School. It's a 270,000 square foot building, $130 million of cost, just down the street in Saugus. So we're very familiar with the neighborhood, the logistics, the traffic, in and around 128 and Route 1. And we know what you're going through in the front of the building every morning when you're trying to get your kids into the school along Farm Street. Somerville, another project that we just recently completed, 370 square feet, $270 million in cost. And we did that with our partner, SM&A. So we're very familiar with the design team. Durfee High School, 623,000 square feet, $270 million of cost. And again, working with Left Field on that project, our teams have experience with the groups that we're all working together, and we're looking to really build those relationships and continue to make those successful relationships. So in summary of the team, we certainly understand complex projects on active, operationally sensitive campuses with tight sites, minimal laydown areas. We incorporate just-in-time deliveries and our technology platforms to communicate, collaborate in real time through lean planning. We will show you our initial approach and assumptions addressing some of the schedules, some of the questions around traffic mitigation, parking issues, working with the abutters on Wiley Street, and most importantly, around the wetlands and the school operations. We understand that we want to be invisible to the school operation because that doesn't change the school season, and they will not be impacted. This is a great team that drives collaboration, communication, and flexibility of process. And again, that learning curve is not needed, and we're eager to get started. So I want to touch base a little bit on schedule. On the overall schedule, we really respect the hard work that the Wakefield team has put into the front end of the schedule. And delivering a design path forward. If we're selected for the pre-con, we would obviously always do a pool planning session just to find out where the opportunities may lie that we may not be seeing right now working together in a collaborative format. But we really don't see any issues with the current path laid out. You know, I know one of the questions was initially starting early in June of 23. You know, and in our opinion, starting that early doesn't give a lot of benefit to the program and the enabling work. It would limit the amount of work that you can do, and maybe putting up some temporary parking lots and finessing some of the parking. You take Beasley Field out of the equation for a full school season. What we recommend, plus it would add probably some cost just in that miscontinuity of work. What we would recommend is starting a little bit sooner than the June of 24, somewhere in the neighborhood of February, where we can actually start that enabling work just on the tail end of the winter. We'll prep parking lots. We'll take out the field a little bit on the early cycle if we all seem as a team that it's reasonable in the early June, early May timeframe, so foundations can begin. Because what we would prefer to do or like to see is as soon as that school shuts down, that we're in a position ready for steel and that building is popping up out of the ground. You know, instant impact and instant progress for the town to see and how quickly we can get a jump start on the building. You know, and the greatest thing about that, and when we compare from the baseline schedule and our alternative schedule, we get to save about $620,000 in GCs because we'll be finishing a little bit earlier on the back end, which will give the team more time to punch list out, check quality of work, work on the commissioning, and get all that stuff nice and neat for the faculty to actually get an early peak, get set in if they have time, and get that advanced prep work done before that August startup again. So I just wanted to touch briefly on that just to kind of frame that for you guys. But I'm going to turn this over to Bill Byrd, who's going to walk through our logistics planning and take you through that sequence. Bill?
Thanks, Chris. Starting out with the enabling right in February 24, the first thing we have to address here is we know we have the wetlands to contend with there. With that being said, we have to obviously set up our erosion controls and abide by the order conditions and make sure we're all set around the water situations around the school. With that, we get the erosion controls set, and then we'd obviously get into isolating ourselves with construction fencing in the various areas. The first area we'd be attacking would basically be the parking situation there. We know the construction is going to affect approximately 135 spaces, but the game plan we've come up with has given us about 165 spaces to supply to replace that. The first area we looked at was up in Walsh Field. We have the chance up there to start right off the bat on a new parking area up there to facilitate the student for faculty cars. And there's a few things to deal with up there. One is there's an existing road swale that we have to keep the drainage flowing by, is not to interrupt anything, and deal with entrances and exits over that. Along with, there's going to be some underground utilities, obviously, because of the cars parking there, and oil and gas separators and things like that that will have to go in order to make the parking lot feasible. Also, temporary lighting in there, because obviously this is used, many hours of the day, different times of seasons. It's dark early, but lighting is another requirement up there. The second spot we looked at is an additional spot we can gain about 40 to 42 spaces in, is your existing parking in the front of the school right now. The lawn area in the front, which is going to be which is called to be reworked when it comes time to do the actual training, the actual sports fields, is going to get disturbed up there. But we looked at it that we could expand that area, restripe it, and gain the parking spots up there. So that would, like I said earlier, that would give you a total of about 165 spaces total. Now, in setting up our facility, which we'd be working out of, we took a look at Dobbins Court, which would be an ideal spot for this. Basically, it gives us many good features with it. One is we're right on the main road. We can see what's going on, keep all eyes on how Hemlock Street, which we know is a heavily traveled road, that's where the congestion is going to happen. We're looking at it right from our trailers and our setup. The other option we also have is, if it was possible, the remaining courts that are behind that area could be converted into temporary parking spots. with a little bit of rework and restriping up that area. Now, this could be used for workers, it could be used for school, for after-school activities otherwise. And we're also looked at other alternatives to worker parking. One would be, we have looked into Nahan Street, which is a DPW facility that's over there, and it could accommodate our workers' vehicles. A big part of this is the main piece of this that really makes the whole job work. It keeps us separated from the school without bothering the activities going on, is the loading area for the actual job itself. We're looking to set up directly across from that. Basically in that area, that's where all our deliveries would travel up Hemlock Street and pull immediately off the road, not taking parking away from the streets, which we know the students are using quite a bit. We learned that through our walkthrough. And we'd have a small access path that led down to the job site, where things like lulls would move the material from this loading area up there. Now, on the loading, we know how congested Hemlock Street is, so we have to address the deliveries in there. That's a big factor through all our construction. Basically, we have many ways to control deliveries coming into the site. We keep a hard hand on it. We use delivery schedules constantly. We use software such as Voyage to schedule in our times for delivery. And knowing the school schedule, we work with that. Basically, we black out the hours of 7 to 9 a.m. No deliveries during that period. Deliveries, unexpected deliveries, we try as hard as possible not to have that ever happen. If a delivery was to show up that wasn't scheduled by a subcontractor, we usually turn them away if we have to, rather than cause any disruption to the school. We'd also black out that area for probably about 1 o'clock on. It all depends on the bus schedules through there and the students' release. And we're variable to that every day based on the schedule as we work with the school. Also now in the back of the site, we have the neighbors that are involved there. And with that fencing that we're putting in the back of the site, to the construction activities there, we would create a sound barrier on that wall to help mitigate the sound of heavy equipment running through this area. Now, during the same time period, as Chris alluded to earlier, was if we did have an early start during this period, we would be down in the field area working, stripping the field and starting foundations in there. Basically with the whole cue, as he said, trying that summer to be to the portion of the building. Now, when we get to the actual steel and raising of the building, what we're looking at is basically the building in 3 sections. The big focus of this building is obviously the auditorium, the cafeteria, and the large area in the back there. So we'd be building that up first, but all our construction would always focus on against the existing school. That way, in the same method we're creating the sound wall against the neighbors, we're creating against the existing school. The more wall we get up against the existing school, the less of a distraction to any students that are in the school, paying more attention to us than what they should be learning. At the same time, we create an access road between the 2 projects for vehicles to move around the area. And as we go on through it, basically we'd be working right out to Nahan. Yeah, that's fine. We'd be working out to Nahan Street to start, to get away from the main school itself. Come the middle of 26, we'd have the school basically open and we'd be looking at the demo of the existing school. During that time, we create a drive lane between the 2 schools again, reorganize our fences, but part of this would also involve possibly the demolition of that small wing that's located there right off the bat. So that way there is more room. We know that's a very tight spot between the new school and the old school. And that would open it up to allow traffic through, basically buses for the ADA drop off. At the same time, the loading area that we established in the beginning of the job would be turned back over to the school. And this would become a temporary bus loop through that area. And as far as the demo of the existing school goes, we would obviously work from the new school and work our way towards Farm Street. And as we get away, less distraction to the new school while it's functioning. And now when we get to this phase of it, the school is down. And basically within our fence confinements, what we're looking to do is right off the bat, work on the proposed bus loop that you will need for the school. That will alleviate that temporary one that we established. At the same time, in that fence area, You see a small area on there, which is the Chapter 97 work, which is the new, basically the new Hemlock Street coming through. We would work within our fence lines, develop that road from Farm Street right to basically the new Hemlock Street. But we'd hold off on that area to do the actual marriage in till there was a break in the school, obviously in the school, which would alleviate the traffic on the road and would let us make that marriage in. At the same time, once that road is occupiable and open, we would jump up to the area you see as Section 2, where the permanent parking is planned to be developed. We jump on that and develop that area. Now, once that's all complete, onto the sports field, and then complete the sports field, pick our time to do that final overlay down on Area 3 of the new Hemlock Street, which would give you the completed street at this point in the finished product. We'd return the areas such as Dobbs Courts and the area up along where we made the parking on Field Street and restore those to whatever condition we wanted. And it may be deemed that some of those areas may want to stay functional, but that would be, a future decision to be made. Now, as far as Steve Evans now will address some interaction between ourselves and the school and community.
Thanks, Bill. I'm going to touch base on the community engagement, and I'd like to start off with safety. I start off every meeting with safety on the job, and I just thought it would be prudent to kind of do the same thing here. So we have a tight site, Bill went over it, and every square inch of this site is going to have Wakefield Memorial High on it. So we ended up reaching out to the fire department, and they gave us some really good insight on how they would approach the school in case of emergency. So we took that information and we really, brought it into that logistics plan. We looked at setting up a 15-foot offset for the fence line for means of egress with signage to really be able to help direct the students to a safe location. We plan on having a daily huddle with Principal McLeod, and we do this with our foreman every day, and it's extremely, extremely valuable just to be able to touch base if anything comes up and be able to shift and move, really on the fly. We develop on every job a site-specific safety plan, and we want to be able to share this plan with Wakefield Police and Fire and also the school department, because we want to be able to jump in and have joint fire drills. The proximity of the building going up with the existing building, and then vice versa. Once we turn over the new building, the proximity of us demoing the existing one, we really have to be thorough and be mindful of all the safety precautions on what's going on. And then lastly, with safety, we set up security cameras. We do this on every job for the most part now, and it just helps us know what's going on when we're not there around the clock. And with that comes a time lapse camera. And that kind of brings me into my next topic is the student engagement. So out the gate, what we'd really like to do is start to set up scheduled site tours with the teachers throughout the school year to show the practical use of the tools that they're teaching the kids in class. Areas like math, right? And how that ties into engineering or the arts with 3D modeling, architecture, the visual arts with the time-lapse camera, and then science, right? How we use technology. It's completely changed, from when I started in the business of using light tables to now we're using drones and cameras on top of our hard hats, and programs like Voyage instead of an old, chalkboard or whiteboard. So we really want to be able to, introduce that to the kids. We also plan on working with a job fair and just to try to get the kids, engaged. And if we can work with an internship program, it'd be really, helpful for the kids, I think, in the long run. And then lastly, on the community side, we plan on running a monthly newsletter, just highlighting what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, month to month. You know, running foundations, steel going up. You know, we're getting TCO. We're going to start demo, and just keeping the community, you know, as a whole, up to speed on what we're doing every day. We truly just want to be part of the community. You know, you get involved with local car washes, softball games. You know, we understand that we're guests here, but, you know, we just want to be an active partner with the community at the end of the day. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight a little bit of what Steve was talking about in regards to what I think is one of the most important parts of these projects is communication. I always teach in my team the 3 C's: communication, communication, and communication, because it's really that important. You know, we feel it's a critical component to the success of any project, and we do use a lot of technology to help keep everybody informed on a day-to-day basis. Matter of fact, it's probably no secret to you guys, we're a very metric-based company. We're very big into big data. We're very big into data points, and that's on real time. So we've created an owner dashboard that gives you all the specifics to a project all on one screen, so you can see what is going on from day to day, which helps inform the team on where to focus their priorities. You know, it tells you RFI counts, you know, what's in the queue, submittals, what's been out there for a while, what's been expedited, schedule information, and even financial information, so you can see it in real time. We found this to be a very helpful tool to our ownerships, and I can honestly tell you that our owners love this. It really feels connected to the job, you know, and not that I don't mind phone calls every minute of the day, but it allows you to see it without making a phone call. But I'm also available 24/7, so that shouldn't concern you at all. We also use a lot of different formats, you know, that most of you are familiar with: Procore, which is our management software; Rumbix, which is a digital field slip tracking software. No more lost papers in the bottom of the file cabinet. It's all there in real time. You can see it. Steve mentioned the camera on the hat, which is the camera on the top of the hat, which is open space, which actually is our guys walk through the space and it digitally records, kind of like a Google image of the work in progress that is mapped in 3D and then overlaid back into the model. And we can track every daily progress in a digital format instead of trying to take photographs of every little corner of the building. A very useful tool, one for OPMs to watch and see how things are progressing and really see how things evolve over time. And I can take you through also, you know, billing and Texor in our safety program, which actually is tied to an AI system that alerts us on trends. And that's a lot of how we kind of gear our safety program, is watching the trends that are happening globally across the country, and then circling back to make sure we can cover those with our field staff and subcontractors to highlight some of these, whether it's backaches or ankles or soft tissue industries. There's a whole host of things that these data points allow us to steer and navigate the whole team out in the field. But as I mentioned, communication is our commitment, is to helping run a streamlined process for all on the team. We want to make it easier for you. Our focus is really to gear you to be able to make the right decisions at the right time and not be distracted by bad information. So lastly, communication with the school, as Steve was alluding to, is really paramount to us. I mean, we're going to be tied together, you know, arm and hip. We're creating a family of people working together on a day-to-day basis, and we're really integrated into the school safety and fire drill program, making sure that it's a seamless process for the whole community with the fire department. And I spoke to Chief Sullivan, and he was a great help in walking through some of the logistics around the building. Having those daily communications with Principal McLeod is just a back check to make sure we're hitting on her mark. We're not interfering, because we want to be as invisible as possible, because we understand that the operation of school doesn't change and we cannot be the ones in the way. And understanding that traffic and the drop-offs, and we know it backs up out there. So that is one of those things that we'd be paying attention to. So for keeping the students safe, the faculty safe, and obviously the residents, and engaging them, because they're going to be neighbors as well. And Nobody likes to hear construction in their backyard, and we fully understand that, and we help navigate that to the best of our ability. So I can talk about this stuff all day long because I get excited about working in the field and working with your teams, but I want to turn this over to Dara, and she's going to talk more about our workforce management and community service.
Thank you so much, Chris. So here at Suffolk, we're committed to a diverse and inclusive business environment, both in our offices and on our project sites. And we truly believe that bringing diverse people, views, and experiences to the table, it's reflective of the diverse communities in which we live, work, and we build. And with that, we've really taken a very unique approach toward how we challenge those inequities within construction to drive diversity across all of our projects and increase diverse participation. And we refer to this as our 3 C's approach, which is construction, company, and community. An example of this is our Build With Us at Suffolk program. It's a small business accelerator, which is tailored to minority and women-owned businesses. It provides them the training and the mentorship that they need to further their growth and development. To date, we've graduated a total of 219 small businesses, but we've then taken it a step further. We've incorporated internal workflows to get these firms pre-qualified by working with our estimating teams. Dave Slamsky, whom you'll hear from shortly, we're now able to really create pathways for the success of each graduate. And this allows us to support that developing pool of qualified firms that's ready to do business with Suffolk. And by being proactive, our teams can identify MWBE firms for file and non-file bids way ahead of the project getting underway. We also have our in-house compliance team that's going to be monitoring this project very closely from start to finish. And this is how we ensure that there is a diverse workforce of all of our trade partners on the project site to ensure that there is minority and women on the job. We work alongside the project team for the project life cycle, and we also utilize a very robust database. As Chris mentioned, we utilize a lot of technology, but this allows us to really monitor the project status in real time while providing you the weekly reports so you also know where the project stands with these workforce compliance commitments. We're also very committed to creating access to local job seekers and students in Wakefield. And we often say that we cannot do this work without our partners. So our teams are ready to collaborate with our local pre-apprenticeship partners, our union partners, to really support that developing pipeline of the future workforce. And education, as we all know, is very essential to building awareness of jobs within construction. So Steve mentioned it, we're really excited. We're ready to engage with the students. We're ready to allow and make this project site accessible to the students of Wakefield High, but also those within the community. We want them to take part of this journey with us to further their learning. I've had the privilege of working with Left Field at the Durfee High School project on a number of outreach events. And I've also supported our Saugerson High School team to execute on diversity strategies. And I'm currently working with Stephen on the Quincy Public Safety Headquarters. Our intent here is not to just meet the goals, but it's actually to exceed them. We strongly believe that having diverse participation across all of our projects is simply the right thing to do. And I'll just close by saying, as a woman of color that's working within this capacity, I can say affirmatively that Suffolk is dedicated and committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our team that's presented before you today is equally as committed to the project's overall success, and we believe in leading by an example. Building a diverse community, it really remains the priority within our daily efforts, and we look forward to really having a positive and lasting impact within the town of Wakefield for many years to come. So I'll turn it over now to Dave, who will talk a little bit more about the strategies and the estimation on your job. Dave?
So that was a lot about how we're going to build the job, but we all know we first have to get there. And to get there, you have to bring in a project on budget. So looking at your estimate, and I really dig in when I'm looking at these projects, I look at your plans and the drawings that you have so far, which are pretty minimal at this stage. And then I go through the estimates. So this is the PMC estimate and the Fogarty one right behind it, and look through that. And when I break it down, the first thing I always like to do is break down the building itself, which you actually have to pair a few things together and pull a few things apart, you were at $585 a square foot for the building itself. Now, how does that compare? So I look at a bunch of our recent projects. Saugus High School, just the building itself now was 605. Durfee High School was 580. Lowell was 570, and Roxbury Prep's a little bit smaller that we're working in pre-con now is about 645, but that's because of the size and a little bit about that job. So at 585, I think you're right in the right range, which I give you a lot of credit for, because the amount of escalation that we've seen in the market over the last 2 years, it's tough for people to keep up with what's happening. And then if you look at the overall demo site new building, your overall budget's at $675 a square foot, which is, I think maybe not coincidentally, the MSBA construction costs obviously do a good job keeping the graph of what's happening. That's exactly the average, 675. So that's the first thing I look at. But you did ask a little bit about what's happened in the market. So if we go to the next slide, talking about the market, we've seen prices increase over the last 2 years, right? And material prices, everybody hears about it. It's all over the news. You can hear about copper, you can hear about sheet metal, all those things. But they're only one part of it. The labor shortages, which have caused really a lot of market saturation in the Boston metro area, is really what's causing the increase in prices. So the fact is that the subcontractor market just doesn't need more work. And if they don't need more work, they don't get aggressive on their pricing. They add contingencies. The labor that they're picking up to do the work is not as efficient. And that all adds together and increases the cost. So that's why these costs are up. The good news is that we think by the time this bids out, we might be headed a little bit down. We see a recession by 2024, but what we see is subcontractors that are going to start to look for work, and that's good for this job in particular. So then what do we do about cost control? Schematic on the screen here. That's what really matters, setting that target estimate. And in this case, you've set that estimate at 175. It's really setting the scope of what's going to go into that. And there's only one way to do that, and that's hard work. And that means we want to provide a team together that includes SMMA, includes yourselves, includes all the other designers, to really come together and make sure that first estimate is really, really good. And the way we do that, what we do and what we bring to the table is a lot of detail. We have our own mechanical, electrical in-house, structural site in-house, and we put together a lot of detail. We'll then reconcile with Pmc. It'll probably be a little bit more detailed than you're used to looking at. And then we insist on really reviewing that estimate, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to build on paper in an estimate what SMMA, yourselves, and the designers are going to actually draw 6 months, 8 months later in those 90% CD set. So one of the things you'll find a little bit different is a lot of the reconciliations that you've all sat through may be half a day. We think that reconciliation really needs to be a day, or even sometimes a day and a half to 2 days, because you really don't want to just skip over things. You want to get to everything, talk about, well, what do you think is going to be designed? And let's get that in that initial estimate. So that's setting the target is extremely important. Then we want to control those costs throughout, and we will do the estimates at the SDs, the DDs, the 30% CDs, 60% CDs, 90%, all of the stuff that we are required to do. But we don't want to go way in between. We want to be at the meetings. We want to be talking to the design team. We want to be making sure that they feel comfortable coming to us and say, hey, here's our new reflected ceiling plan. Does that work? What's happening in the science classrooms? Do we have all that in the estimate, or do we have to make shifts and really adjust as we go? So that's super important. And then finally, how do we get you the most competitive price in the end? And it comes down to two things, really. One is getting the most amount of subcontractors to bid your project. And that's, again, just hard work. That means we make calls. In the pre-qualification process for the trade contractors, we're gonna make calls beforehand to make sure that they enter into that pre-qualification process. We're gonna bring subs that may not have been involved before. We wanna make sure that we have really good sub coverage there. And same on the non-trade partners. The second thing is, really good documentation gets you better pricing. And so we want to make sure we put together a really good package to give to all the contractors. And that includes not just what SMMA and their designers are putting together, but also what are the logistics? right? What are we doing for a schedule? What is our safety expectations? And what that does is take away risk from their vantage point and allows them to get aggressive on the price. So that's how we get you the best price. You asked us about predictions for the future years. Like I said earlier, we think commercial residential market's coming down now a little bit. Life sciences probably mid 2023, and then education, K through 12, and healthcare probably won't dip until mid-late 2023. But we then see the escalation getting less and less, 3% maybe this year, 3 to 5 next year, and then 1 to 4 in 2024, where we see us go into probably a little bit of a recession. So that's all I have on cost, and Christian's gonna, oh, I'm sorry, one more thing on lead time. So these are all items on your project that you're looking at, and we're just looking at lead times for these things. The VRF heat pump system is your major component, or your mechanical system, 6 to 28 weeks lead time. We will be putting that in our schedule. Steve will have that all mapped out. Some other things, you have a 350 kW diesel generator that we saw in the estimate. Those are the types of things, have some long lead times up to 52 weeks. I'm hoping because it's a bit smaller, maybe it's not that long. You've got the metal panel rain screen, the phenolic rain screen, all of those things we want to get in the schedule, make sure the lead times are correct so we can get them ordered on time.
So with that said, I know that our excitement has certainly come out today, and we couldn't be more excited about your project. I know that you wanted some time for some question and answers. I would ask if we could leave a minute or two for John to do a close. So is there any questions that we could answer for you guys?
Joe, do you want to start with questions?
What do you see as our greatest challenge after reviewing all of the plans and the design work and everything? What do you see as the greatest challenge for the town in this project?
So, Dave, you want to take it from a pre-con standpoint?
Sure. On pre-con, I think it's really that schematic estimate on getting that right. These days, if anybody tells you they can predict the market going forward, they're really doing their best job at guessing, but they don't exactly know. So putting some flexibility into that design is extremely important. So we want to make sure we got that really good estimate, but we also want to have some alternates in there to be able to flex if the market goes up, if the market stays steady, or if the market goes down, because we don't want to spend $160 million, right, and leave money on the table if you have $175 million to spend and you want to get that into the school for the kids. So making sure you're really flexible during that period, I think, is really important.
Yeah, and from a constructability standpoint, I think you're looking at a lot of impact on Hemlock, and obviously you got a lot of work going up on the hill, coming down on the backside of Farm Street. So a lot of truck traffic coming through the town. So just navigating those logistics and being able to carve out those spaces to access the site concurrently with all that activity around is going to take a big undertaking. Certainly achievable.
Thank you.
Chip, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you guys for your presentation. I thought it was very thoughtful and thorough. I guess my question onto all these projects come down to the GMP, right? Our goal as the town is to build a school on time and on budget. And that's okay with me if it's 1 day early and 1 day on budget, $1 on budget. But those two things have to be hit. Joe asked about the challenges. How do you guys manage and think about the GMP on a daily basis? And what are the things that we should be thinking about as we build that GMP?
Christian or Dave, you want to take one of those?
Sure, I'll start with building the GMP. It really comes down to making sure the subcontractors who are bidding the project have the proper scope when you're building that GMP. And a lot of people say, hey, that's just on the design team to make sure. No, that's on everybody here. Again, it's a team effort to make sure we're going to have a set of documents, some drawings and some specifications. We're going to add to those. All examples, things like temporary power, things like logistics, those all have to get in there. That schedule has to be set out. So the subcontractors, to get the best price, we want to make sure they're really clear, but we also have to make sure that everything is in there so they can price that and really, really minimize change orders. I know you're never going to eliminate them. There are going to be changes that happen. They're going to be unforeseen conditions, but you want to set the job up so you have the proper allowances at the time of GMP to cover those and only those items. But you also want to make sure that the subcontractor is covering everything. And on these jobs, you have two different types of people. You have the trade contractors who you only give those documentation to one time, and you have to use that low contractor. And then you have the others where we can bid out, we can then scope, we can interview and do that. So you have to treat it two different ways. The other thing that I think you really have to do is you have to pre-qualify the subcontractors pretty well. There are contractors that will bid 149A that aren't qualified for this particular job. $175 million is a large job. The mechanical electrical packages are large. You want to make sure that they are truly qualified. So those are the two things I see as main things to set that GMP properly. Did that answer your question, Chip?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
As a follow-up to that, certainly one of the questions that's out there is how many lawsuits do you have? And clearly you guys have a number of them, and it appears that a number of them are with your subs. Why do you think that is?
Christian?
Yeah, I would say that, each lawsuit has its story in itself. If a project is put on hold, that may be another reason. But overall, I mean, if you reach out to the subcontractor market, I think you would get an overwhelming response of how fair, firm, and professional we are at all times. Like I said, every issue has its own specific story. So I don't believe that that is relevant right here. I won't say that there isn't litigation for many different reasons.
Christian, can I answer that as well? Christian, can I answer that?
Absolutely, John.
Yeah, Christian, Chip, thank you for that question. We are a large company. We're close to a $5 billion business. I own the company myself. I started it 40 years ago. If you took a look at our revenue, okay, and divide the number of lawsuits that we have on an annualized basis, it's substantially lower than any of our competitors. Not even close. So my sense is, I think that if you take a look at that and realize and unpack the particular lawsuits, what they're into, it's us about getting jobs done on time and on schedule to the point that you're talking about, and we do hold people accountable.
Thank you, John.
Doug, would you like to go?
Yes, I have a two-part question. The first is, in your experience in building Saugus High School, I was wondering if you can share one of your greatest challenges over there with with design and how you might have reconciled that. And then the second part of that question is, did any changes needed to be made due to those design changes or design challenges to the educational plan?
Yep, I will. I think that as far as when any changes are made, the first thing that we do is we do not try to change the programming at all. And my personal history with SMMA, they know that from experience, is that ultimately the design intent is never the thing that you're going to value engineer out. That is at the utmost important. Your programming of your school is what ultimately we're trying to deliver. Now, if there's a way to drive the cost down through value engineering, we'll look at things that do not impact your program, and we stand firm behind that. As far as items at Saugus, I personally can't speak to that. I know that Dave, I don't know if you
I
have
can talk
an
to
example.
a few things.
Yep.
So actually, that job in particular, the team effort to set the target was actually very good. So we did not have a lot of challenges on the cost standpoint. That stayed relatively steady throughout, which is nice, and it came in GMP there. Doesn't always happen. That job was really good. But I'll tell you, one of the challenges was on the interiors. The design team really wanted to use a lot of wood, and in particular for structural, so structural wood. And we really did a good job working. And the problem is there aren't a lot of contractors that do that large structural CLT type of work. And so we came to a compromise inside. We have a lot of the beams in some of the two-story spaces that are wood. You could actually see through the windows from Route 1 if the light's right where you can see in. And so those are the types of things we are working on to stay within budget. We looked at a few alternates there on things like that as well. But a lot of things like the exterior, we kept all the brick. At times there we talk about moving to more metal panels. We were able to keep most of that brick. You see metal panel on the backside, but that whole front side is brick. And the other place really is landscaping. And again, trying to keep the look of what was there, but for instance, they had a lot of these wood bridges call them wood bridges in the parking area. Took a lot of that, maybe reduced the quantity of some of that, but kept kind of the sense of that. So it was actually very good because the team worked really, really well together to stay within that estimate.
Thank you.
Tim, do you have any questions?
Is that me, Lynn, you're asking? Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
just in your experience building schools, have you all developed like a best practices when it comes to material selection? And when I say that from a building maintenance perspective, when the building's turned over, I'm thinking, terrazzo flooring versus tile flooring, those sorts of things.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Who wants
I could take that.
Go ahead.
So I would say that the periodic pre-construction estimates that we provide isn't just an estimate that we do, but we provide constructability. And we're bringing in Bill and Steve, and all of us are getting together, and actually our self-perform arm, and talk about real life implications and how pieces go together, and how the AVB ties into the windows. And those are real concerns, specifically for a guy like yourself, Tim, that you have to live with this building after we're long gone. And just because it works today doesn't mean that it has that longevity. And with the amount of experience we have with the type of buildings we do throughout the city and throughout the country, actually, is we have those experiences that we share during the design and challenge the designers and talk about not only how they work, but the cost implications and where the plus and minus lands. So I think we do a tremendous job of doing that.
And I'll give you an example of that. And it starts when my kids were young, and I realized some stuff when I was starting to price schools back then. And I was always saying, why do you have ceramic tile all over the hallways? You could do painted walls. Okay, do a little, the better board so it doesn't get marked up and all that. And then when my kids were young, 15 plus years ago, I realized after walking through those schools, now I know why they have ceramic tile. So I do not VE the ceramic tile in the hallways, because I know over a long time that is much, much better for the school.
Thank you very much.
Helen, would you like to go?
Sure. So you've touted your experience on tight and complex sites. Can you give us a lessons learned from maybe a recent or not even a recent school project to share?
Sure. So tight, we do a lot of work in the Boston market where you have zero lot lines, and a lot of times that's congested with people, right? You have people walking up and down sidewalks. You're working with traffic that never stops. So, one of the lessons learned is we're always policing it first thing in the morning, trying to be we're the first guys on the job site, and making sure, somebody isn't moving our fence line to get a parking spot. Someone didn't tear into the fence to try and sneak a shortcut through, and making sure those lines are tight, because what we've experienced, we've all sorts of different people, is we like to take the path of least resistance. And when students are walking down through a site, or people are trying to make their way over to the football field and they find a cone, it doesn't resonate. So proper signage and policing is one of those things that we've had to amp up over time just to make sure people are safe.
Okay, do you have anything else, Helen? I have one quick question. Should the project go with geothermal, given that it's such a tight site and that it's a two-phase new construction and then demolition of the existing, how would you propose to handle the geothermal well fill?
So I'll take that. So we've done a bunch of geothermal. We've done it lately. The one thing you really have to know is that the geothermal is a very wet process. So some of it depends on how deep you're going, what the soil conditions are to know exactly how you're going to drill. But if you're going to do that, that's something that we always recommend getting started early, because it is a very wet process in most cases. Most of the drillers like to use a wet drilling process. And so it depends on where it is on site, obviously, and how many wells. I mean, if you've got 40 wells, it's different from having 100 wells. So it really depends on all those things. But it's something that I would say that the design team has to get on right away. The mechanical engineers got to be in sync with. The other thing we've done a bunch of times is we actually hired 3 different contractors to do test wells, and they were test wells that we could use. And then we looked at, because there are different drilling types and there are different drilling speeds, and you have to be careful about how straight that well is. Because if you curve, you take from another well, take capacity away. So we have some pretty good experts here in geothermal wells. We would put them on the job during that period to make sure that we designed it properly and we knew exactly what we were going to do on the installation.
Have you done them under buildings? Or for example, across the road and a distance away?
Yeah, so we've done both. I will say beneath the building is a challenge. There's some challenges in that once you do that, you can't get back to them. Or it's hard to get back to them. So that's one reason that the maintenance side of the institutions don't love that. But it also does affect schedule. Like I said, you really want to get that done early. If you're doing them and then you're going to put obviously the building over, it does affect schedule. So you have to look at it. But other than that, there's no reason not to do it below the building. So we have done it on a recent job. We did it both. We try to avoid below the building. We had 33 wells. I think about 3 or 4 of them had to be below the building. So.
Boston University.
Okay, thank you all very much. I appreciate you sticking to our time schedule, right on time, a couple minutes early, actually. And thank you very much, and we'll be in touch with you soon.
Lynn,
Would you mind if I make a few comments?
Lynn, they
before we
did
close?
ask John for a couple minutes for John to.
Okay, go ahead. Good.
Yeah, Chip, thank you very much. Again, on behalf of the Suffolk team, I want to thank the building committee for allowing us the opportunity to present. I'm hoping that we answered all of your questions and that we were responsive to the RFP. That was our goal this evening, that we didn't leave any stone unturned. What I would say in closing is there's really 4, I think, areas that differentiate Suffolk, and I'd like to just walk through those with you. And basically, it's a recap of what we told you this afternoon. First, hopefully we conveyed to you that every member of our team that we put on the field today has been with Suffolk for quite some time. They have worked together for an extended period of time, and they have deep experience in this particular area of 149A. And that's what we're very, very proud of, and especially in a marketplace where people have difficulty turning over and they don't have a lot of longevity with the company. This team has been, as I pointed out, almost average over 2 decades. Christian pointed out, secondly, about the experience we have. We recognize that 140A is a unique delivery method, and it's a very, 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 what we think is an exceptional method. It gives a little more flexibility than the old 149. And we've done, as Christian pointed out, almost $3 billion worth of work. And we think that gives us a degree of competitive advantage as well as somebody that maybe has not done as much work as we've done. In addition to Chapter 149A, what I want to mention to you also is we're the leading educational builder in New England, okay, both in the private sector and the public sector. In the public sector, we've pointed out projects that we've done. In the private sector, we work at Harvard, we work at MIT, we work at BC, Northeastern, okay, and BU. And we've had very, very good repeat experiences with those institutions. And we're very, very proud of those. And those are very, very dense, challenging sites. So overall, I'm very, very proud of the company and our experience in the educational field. It means a lot to us. Thirdly, and I think Steve mentioned this, our maniacal focus on safety is extremely important to everybody on that job site. People that go to work in the morning need to understand clearly that it is our priority to send those workers home safe at night. But on this site, it's not only the workers, it's the students, it's the neighbors, it's the abutters, and it's the town of Wakefield. We want to ensure that we put forth every ounce of effort to ensure safety is a #1 top priority on this particular project. And lastly, commitment. Hopefully we conveyed this evening that every member of our team has been working on this project for over the last month or so, has walked the site, has met with the local people without a respect, and is committed to getting this job done. I think somebody asked about the job being on schedule, on budget. Every member here on this team has given me their personal commitment of getting this job done on time and on budget. Second, the company. I mentioned we're a large organization. We're from Boston. I live here. I walk these job sites. It's my pride and joy. You have my commitments on behalf of the company that we'll put our company resources behind it. Then lastly, when I talk about commitment, which is most important, one of the reasons why I asked our team if they were 100% committed on this job and leave it all in the field is because I told them this evening I was going to make a commitment to you. And my commitment to you, to the town of Wakefield, if you do not feel that we did our job in this project in the best interest of the town of Wakefield, the architect and the owner, do not pay us our fee. I own this company. I have no board of directors. It's me by myself. We are so committed to the town of Wakefield. If we do not do our job, and it's your evaluation, both you, ownership, and left field, and the architect, do not feel Suffolk did its job on this project at the end. If we misled you, we didn't perform consistently, we didn't provide the right quality, do not pay John Fish's fee. Just take it out of the retainage. I will put that in writing in the contract. Hopefully, this building committee will understand how committed John Fish is, Suffolk Construction is, and our team to want to do a first-class job for the town of Wakefield. In closing, I want to thank you very much for the consideration. We're honored to be here this evening, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Text Dave to tell him to bring their team in.
Okay.
Very ominous, Chip. You're just in the dark.
I know, I gotta go turn a light on. I just realized that. I'm like, ooh. There, how's that? I
Bring
like
in the
staying
dogs.
in the dark, Tim.
We like it on our end too.
Hey, hey, hey.
Oh, sorry.
I'm ready to hire Suffolk and tell them they did a horrible job. Anybody else?
I'll tell you. a
I'm
story.
glad that everybody's laughing before we, as we come in. That's a good sign, probably.
No, it's pretty much just when your face came up. That's
we're a little nervous. You guys would be tired and lethargic at this point, but it's nice to
Oh,
see
no,
smiling.
we're
faces.
raring to go, my friend.
We've been waiting for you.
I bet. I bet.
I don't know if you guys are.
All
I
right,
think we still have some people logging in.
who do I co-host?
Frank is going to be the co-host.
Okay.
And he's, yeah.
Frank, you're on mute too.
Yeah, imagine that, Joe. I'm running the slideshow.
I was
So
gonna say, you've trusted him with technology.
This-
That's so, hey, that's
this
so
could
there's
be
no
an
one else that we can
absolute
blame.
disaster. Just warning.
Hope you do a
everyone.
better job than me.
All right, are we all here? Justin, Jerry, Dario, Olivia. Yep, I think so.
Stephanie.
All right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Hey.
Steph's there. All right, I'm going to do the share screen thing. I'm going to start the slideshow. Okay, we're ready whenever you are. Can you guys see
Yep.
the
Yep.
screen? Okay. Are you doing intros or anything from your side, or are we
Yeah.
just going to launch right in?
Probably should to keep
Lynn,
consistent.
is Lynn there?
Joe, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. As you all know, I'm Joe Bertrand. I'm the chairman of the Permanent Building Committee.
I'm Chip Tarbell. I'm secretary of the Permanent Building Committee.
Good evening. I'm Doug Lyons. I'm the superintendent of schools.
I am Tim O'Brien, Director of Facilities for Wakefield Public Schools.
I am Helen Fantini, project manager with SMMA.
Tim Baker with Left Field. I'm the project manager with Lynn Stapleton, who I think stepped away briefly. She's the project executive. Oh,
You
she's
guys
back.
hear me now?
We
Yeah,
can.
we can.
Yep.
Sorry about that. My internet dropped me. So yes, Lynn Stapleton, and we're with Left Field. I'm happy to see so many familiar faces tonight. All right,
All
with
right.
that, I'll turn it over to you guys to start your presentation.
Great. Thanks, Lynn. Good evening. For the few of you that might not know, my name is Dave Capaldo. I would be the project executive on the project. Just to be clear, and we know that the project executive role varies from firm to firm. So I wanted to clarify that my involvement will not just be at the 30,000 foot level. I'll be a working PX, getting deep into the weeds, assisting our entire project team day to day on all aspects of this project, from the day we sign the contract through the warranty period. And putting my vice president of public sector hat on for a moment, this project could not be more important to me, and I could not be more committed to ensuring that our team exceeds your expectations. So with that, I'm going to let the rest of the team introduce themselves.
I think most of you know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Jerry Hammersley. I'll be the senior superintendent for the project. I was the lead super for the Galvin Middle School project in Wakefield, as well as having worked on many other K through 12 projects over the last 24 years, in addition to many other college level campuses. I am also a Wakefield resident of 18 years and father of 2 daughters that attended Wakefield schools. Really excited to have the opportunity to work with the town of Wakefield once more. John?
My name is Jonathan Rossini. I'll be your project manager for the project. I'll be your main point of contact throughout, and then also your financial specialist. I've been lucky enough to work pretty closely with everyone on this panel tonight on the bond side, and I look forward to making a partnership with the town and design team on this one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dara Santiago, and I'll be project manager right behind Jonathan for your high school. For the folks who I haven't had the pleasure to meet with just yet, I'm currently your project manager over at the public safety building. And I've been with Bond just over 5 years now, and I've been lucky enough to be mentored by and also work side by side every single person on our team here.
I'm Justin Obashan, Director of Estimating for the Bond Building Division. I've been working through this for 15 years, had the opportunity to work with all these fine folks through that whole time. Looking forward to doing some more work for the town of Wakefield. and I'll be leading the estimating team through that pre-construction process. Stephanie?
Thanks, Justin. I'm Stephanie Crapo. I will be the assistant superintendent on this project, working with Jerry to manage everyday site activities. My role will also have a specialized focus as the QA/QC manager. I have worked for Bond for 5 years. I've actually gotten to work with everybody on the Bond team presented here tonight, and I am a Wakefield resident. Relatively new, but I'm a Wakefield resident, so I'm excited to potentially work on this project.
And I'm Olivia Gardner, Senior Virtual Design and Construction Manager. I've been focused for the past 10 years at Bond to manage the building information model from pre-construction all the way to closeout and operation management afterwards. My goal is to make sure that we're pre-planning with diligence so that we are all making sure that this project will be a success.
Thanks, Liv. And hey, everyone, Frank Hayes. I'm the president of Bond Building Construction, also principal for this project. And as Dave mentioned, he's going to be in the weeds. I'm going to be very close to this project at probably 5,000 feet, not in the weeds with him, but very active on this project and really looking forward to it. I'm also an owner of the company, so have the decision rights to do whatever Bond needs to do to make this a raving success for the town. Before we get started on the presentation, I just wanted to hit a few of the corporate facts, as Tim had asked on the agenda. So you can see it was established in 1907. We've got offices throughout New England. Right now, we're running about 750 employees. Jerry's going to talk a lot about our safety program. We've got an amazing program going with an unbelievable EMR, considering all the self-perform that we do. And speaking of self-perform, I just want to make mention, we do have a full civil utility group that's a very sophisticated group that can self-perform. And if it makes sense for this project, things like maybe the Hemlock Street alignment, culvert work, or any early utilities, that may be something we can bring to bear. We also self-perform all carpentry and labor trades. Again, we'll see how the project comes together, but in this time of labor shortages and labor challenges, it's just it's been really helpful for some of our clients to be able to bring and put our own teams on to drive the projects. So this is an incredibly important project for all of us on multiple levels. First and foremost, I'm a Wakefield resident, and I love this town, and I want to be part of this legacy because I think this is going to be huge for the town of Wakefield. I think through our prior work with the town, we've shown our dedication and commitment. We're always there. We don't walk away from anything, and you can expect nothing less on this project. This will be our first high school. I think we were pretty honest and clear in our RFP response. But this is an amazing team, and I'm 100% confident in their ability based on having built similar projects, and also all the programmatic types. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But we're ready to put that expertise to work on this project. So we've worked with the town, obviously. We worked with Left Field quite extensively. It's been quite a few years since we've done a job with SMMA, probably back to 2013, I think, which is way too long. So really looking forward to potentially working this job and creating and building a relationship with you folks as well, Helen. So, and then, finally, just our recipe for success is pretty simple. We listen, we collaborate, we communicate, and we deliver. It's not more complicated than that, although we tend to make it more complicated sometimes. So, but we just roll up our sleeves and work really hard for you folks. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Dave. So we'll get started.
So I wanted to point out that our presentation tonight will touch on all the items that you have in your agenda. We may have changed the order a little bit just to have the flow nice and consistent as we go through this Zoom format. As Frank mentioned, we have an incredible team for this project. We've all worked together in the past. Our project management team, Dario, John, and myself have been working together closely for the last 3 years, completing a very complex project for DCAM in Brockton. And as most of you know, Jerry and I did the Galvin together, and we're now working together on a large phase project at Bunker Hill. In addition to the folks you'll be hearing from tonight, as you can see from our org chart, our proposal in our proposal, and we've got it included here, our team is very deep. We have a number of talented individual specialists that'll focus on their own areas of expertise, but with a consistent path for communication and coordination that'll run through John, Jerry, and myself. We're super excited to have this team available for your project, and we look forward to moving forward, hopefully with As Frank mentioned on the next slide, we've got similar project experience that compares very closely to your high school project. This is a snapshot of the register, sort of a matrix we included in our proposal just to outline exactly how your high school program aligns with our previous experience. We highlighted a number of projects, but also most specifically the Chapman Middle School project that we're wrapping up right now, ribbon cuttings in a week. And that project is the same size and scale as your high school project and actually serves more students. There's a lot of elements of that project that are very similar, if not more sophisticated than what we think is being planned for you. But in addition to all those projects, there's a couple that we wanted to highlight a little more specifically that are K-12 projects that were pretty complex, and wanted to start with Dario on Quincy Southwest Middle School.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. So looking at the logistics plan here, you can see we had an extremely tight site that dealt with several challenges. We certainly had curious neighbors here, very close by, and had challenges of vehicular and pedestrian traffic that definitely took some homework on Bond's behalf in solving for a multi-phase construction project. Also, very much like the project that you have here, the new building was set extremely close proximity, and at the closest point, it was only 5 feet and 30 feet below an elevation. So to accomplish this, we installed a highly customized supportive excavation system that also supported the footings of the existing school during the construction of the new project. We also had the opportunity to demolish a small portion of the existing school prior to the construction of the new. And just a quick backstory on that, to guarantee the aggressive schedule, we actually went into the existing building during summer break in an early enabling phase to install a temporary structural wall system along the demo line. And we do believe here we have a similar approach that could potentially be used for your project if the early demo portion is explored.
Also, much like your project, this required an effective soils management strategy where we have a tremendous amount of soil that was cut out of the existing hillside. So there theoretically would have been an export, but also a potential need for import on the after the demo. And we certainly have that same scenario with yours. An interesting project that kind of ties to that soils management strategy during pre-construction. And we were brought into this project actually prior to the completion of SD. We noticed that right down the middle of the new building, there was a 26-foot tall retaining wall that much of those first cut potentially exported soils were going to have to go back and backfill in. But the structural design would not allow for that backfill to occur until the second floor slab was placed. So as you can see with this ridiculously tight footprint, getting those 10,000, 12,000 yards of material back up to that higher end of the site was going to be quite challenging, especially waiting that long. There was no place to stockpile either. So we worked closely with the design team. We asked for a consideration to redesign that wall to allow us to backfill it right away. And in doing so, there was obviously additional cost in the foundations, but when you consider the soil management strategy and what was going to be needed for export and import, we actually saved a couple $100,000 in soils. So in the end, it ended up being quite a success. Jerry?
Thanks, Dave. So this one might look a little familiar to most of you, but just wanted to share a few similarities that we saw between the Galvin and the high school. First of which was there's an existing culvert relocation, which we replaced below the new building. That section shown in black was put in new, and then we basically adjusted the accesses to be outside of the building, which was a big deal to the staff on site there at the Galvin. So another similarity was working in close proximity with that auditorium. When we were building building C there, kind of into that courtyard, if you will, we were really close on one side and probably about 20 feet on the leading edge, being built right outside of existing classrooms. And then lastly, there was multiple phases that we had to work through during construction. So planning those phases out with students and faculty access in and around our active site was key. So before we opened the school, there was actually a team decision to build the access road between DPW and the school early to accommodate buses, which basically eliminated potential congestion with parents dropping off and picking up. Something we will likely need to address with this project, prior to opening in 26. But Dave is going to speak to you a little more about our risk register. Dave?
Yep, thanks, Jerry. As you will recall from our proposal, we included a preliminary risk register of several items that we thought would need to be addressed early in pre-construction. Most importantly, the risks associated with construction directly adjacent to the occupied school buildings is something that will need attention. We obviously want to ensure that we can provide a quality educational environment for those occupied school buildings for the entire duration of construction, while at the same time ensuring the safety of everyone coming and going on this site. Other items that we addressed that will need to be resolved through pre-construction will be soils management, as we mentioned, the existing culvert, as Jerry mentioned. There are obviously supply chain issues that our schedule has to accommodate, and John will talk a little bit about our approach to that. And probably the biggest risk we're seeing right now is cost escalation. It's no surprise to anyone at this point that that's been a tall task to overcome, and Justin will get into more detail with that later in the presentation. Moving into pre-construction on the next slide, we believe that the success of this project will ultimately come from directly from the level of attention and planning we spend during pre-construction. Our approach is to involve the entire team, including and most specifically those that will be tasked with executing the work in the field. We'll develop a comprehensive project plan that we all feel good about, that we know we can successfully deliver for the town. And that will be much more than just arriving at the right number. We're going to make sure that we develop and finalize the phasing, logistics approach, and construction schedule during pre-construction so that all the temporary provisions and general requirements items can be well thought through in detail that we can include in the estimates and the eventual bid documents. We'll perform deep dive constructability and document reviews with an eye on sequencing and methods and overall construction quality. We'll help the design team evaluate proposed systems and material options, making sure that the best bang for the buck can be achieved while maintaining the design intent. And finally, we'll begin a pre-coordination process with the design team, hopefully sharing the model, working through potential conflicts with an eye on maintenance and access. And Liv's going to talk to you about our approach for that as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Justin to talk more about your budget.
Great. Thanks very much. So we've had a chance to take a look at the numbers that were provided, and overall, I think we're in a good place with the numbers that we're seeing here. I would say that at the time in particular, we might have chosen slightly a more conservative approach to some of the escalation, but we certainly are starting to see some more mixed signals in the marketplace than we have over the last few months, with some commodities being flat and even heading down in the last few weeks. On the other hand, we saw glass have a spike at the end of or right at the beginning of July with only a couple of weeks notice. So still mixed signals, but in order to try to manage that and minimize risk, we are constantly out in the marketplace checking benchmarks throughout the market with various subcontractors, trying to keep track of that internally and not just rely on reactive news that we might get through other sources. That constant contact is also something we use to try to track lead times as well. So we try to keep track of all of that information in coordination with Dario's ROJ log, for example, to make sure that we're soliciting for those materials and scopes at the right time, so we don't wind up with left high and dry when the time comes on the job site. In order to manage this budget and keep it where it is, we've got an open book collaborative process that focuses on communication. We have worked with these cost consultants before, done reconciliations with those folks, and we bring that collaborative process, that communication process with us to those interactions. We've got a nice spreadsheet that allows us to track where any of those changes or shifts has happened. We share that with the full team so everyone can feel comfortable with where dollars may have needed to move to align those two budgets. And we bring that same collaborative communicative approach to any value analysis or value management that may need to be done as well. We bring ideas to the table, evaluate the ideas of others, try to make sure that we're sharing the full detail out with the whole team, along with, again, a simple spreadsheet tool that allows folks to see where all those dollars are, see the ramifications of some of those decisions, as well as run their own what if scenarios with all the various options that may be there. And we take that approach in order to do our best to be good stewards of this overall budget. And with a little more on that, we've got Jonathan.
Yeah, so as I said in my introduction, financials and being the steward of your budget is going to be my primary responsibility from day one of pre-con all the way to the last day of project closeout. In pre-construction, going to work with Justin closely to make sure that the estimates are capturing the reality of the project as shown in the design documents. But we definitely need to dig deeper than that. Jerry, Dave, and myself are going to dive in immediately to the project to understand general requirements and specific temporary subcontractor scopes that might be required. Doing this in the schematic design phase, it's not only going to help us start to plan out the project and understand these items, but puts actual scopes to these GR items. So we're not just carrying arbitrary percentage values throughout that. As we get further into the GMP development, again, going to work with Justin and Dave to gather complete subcontractor bids, thoroughly vet them, be sure we're getting everything we can out of these potential subcontractors. Preparing that open book GMP with full transparency for the town is critical so everyone can understand where we're starting from on day one. During this time, we'll also strategically develop some allowances and budget holds in the right scenarios so we protect the town's interest and avoid costly change orders and surprises down the road. Another major responsibility of mine is reporting, which will occur constantly throughout the project. I look to make sure that there's no surprises. As soon as there's even a hint of a potential change item, it's being added to a weekly log for review at the OAC meetings. I'm going to be your first line of defense for those subcontractor changes. Nothing's going to get to the town or the design team before being fully vetted by myself for proper scope and rates. And then finally, comprehensive monthly reports with executive cost summaries will be provided, give you a full project financial status. Next slide to you, Frank.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm just going to jump back in, want to talk a bit about diversity. So we've been making a significant push in the diversity world, if you will. We see it as a three-pronged approach. I think it starts with our culture. We strive to create an open, inclusive, inviting, and welcoming environment. We push diversity, equity, inclusion through our DE&I committee at the office, targeted recruitment, and also industry participation in all of the groups. I won't list them all, they're all up there. From there, we roll into looking at disadvantaged business enterprises. Obviously, that focuses on WBE, MBE, veteran-owned business, disabled-owned business. We've got 500 plus DBE vendors in our database. The trick, though, is actively marketing this project with certain DBE vendors and try to get some alignment so that we can get the right participation where it makes the most sense. So we don't kind of sit back and just throw a pricing exercise out there and see where it comes in. We're going to actively try to get these folks to participate, obviously for the right value for the town as well. The other thing we do is we continue to expand the pool. We have run mentorship programs in the past. We don't currently have one going right now. We're probably going to kick one off in the next few months, where we take some of the smaller firms and teach them how to operate in kind of our world, if you will, so that we're increasing the pool of vendors out there. And then finally, workforce participation. I think it's all about proactive planning, setting the goals with the subcontractors, making sure they know at the outset what the goals are, and actually having a strategy to achieve it versus just letting things kind of roll along and trying to figure it out along the way. That's never a recipe for success. So we'll monitor it, we'll proactively manage it, report on it, and I think kind of that three-pronged approach should lead to success on this for meeting our numbers on the diversity side. So Jonathan, you want to jump back on schedule?
Sure. So our full P6 schedule is included in the proposal, and then this slide just gives you a snapshot of some of those key items and dates. The RFP schedule by Left Field we thought was very, very good and right in line with our proposal schedule. So we've not proposed an alternate. With the work beginning in the ground in June 2024, we need to backtrack to make sure we're procuring items right on time, not too early, not too late. Also need to be conscious to give the design team adequate time to fully vet their systems and get complete bid packages prepared. This is only going to help us get better, more accurate proposals, and again, avoid some of those costly changes throughout the project. First item that we're looking at, major HVAC equipment, where you've seen extraordinarily long lead times. So identifying this, procuring it early, getting it rigged, systems operational, allowing plenty of time for commissioning. Consideration with this early HVAC package is coordination with the structural steel, making sure that we have the proper dunnage and supports. That's why we're looking for this package in the January timeframe, which we believe will be almost in line with the 90% CD estimates. Some of the other major ones are typical for early packages. Looking for these in February timeline again. Site work, foundation, structural steel, elevators, and then major electrical components, transformers and switchgear. Again, if we track back to mobilization, it's right at that 90% CD mark where we need these issued to get make sure that we hit the ground running in June 2024. And then this is also another time where we can use those strategic budget holds and allowances that we developed to make sure we capture changes as we go from the 90% CDs and develop into the 100% bid set. Jerry can take us next through some of the logistics.
Thanks, John. So for phase one, our initial pass here, first and foremost, safety would be our paramount concern, which I will get to, but I just wanted to dive right into the details of the logistics for this project. So much like Galvin, your new high school is a multi-phase job working in and around active school campus. Unlike the Galvin, we're actually building the entire building completely prior to move-in, which is a great advantage to everybody involved. This approach eliminates having to lose program spaces during construction, as well as having multiple relocations while the project gets built. The other difference to these two projects is that this one has two active school campuses directly adjacent to the project site, which creates a few more challenges that we have accounted for here. We will identify and/or create dedicated paths not only for drop-off lanes, but also for walking students for both of these schools during each of the two phases. This 2D logistics plan shows the general traffic flow pattern in and around the existing schools and construction site. We've also taken into account that there'll be approximately 130 parking spaces that are lost through taking the lot at Beasley, as well as some of the parking lot at the front. That said, we've got some ideas on utilizing some of the existing landscape areas to create parking, to replace some of those lost spaces in the corner of the gym lots, as well as potentially stacking some parking in the front of the high school, and even maybe adding some on the other side of Hemlock Road, should DCR possibly be in favor of that. Construction parking is also something on the top of everybody's mind with projects like this. Something that we wanted to address right up front. This is a very tight site, which will only allow minimal parking, basically for foremen, mechanics, trucks, and things of that nature. We have some discussions, or we had some discussions on utilizing either some portion of the Nahant Street pit potentially for parking, if that was a possibility with the town. Also considered contacting St. Florence Church for use of lot, which probably would constitute a shuttle where it's just over a mile from the site. Another thing that's always on the top of everybody's mind with construction sites is the truck routes. It's always in mind with our planning for projects. And in this case, the idea is to keep the trucking away from the center of town. And we're also sensitive to the fact that the Northeast project will be happening concurrently with ours. Frank has actually spoken to some of his friends over at Gilbane about this already. But we will need to make sure that trucking has clear access routes in and out. We are pretty lucky to be centrally located with access to both routes 1 and 95 being close by. So we will be sharing trucking plans with each and every subcontractor to pass along to their drivers as well as their vendors, coming to and from the site. So also addressed here is the traffic flow for in and out of the site. We took a first stab at basically planning to widen potentially the curb cut that's between Woodville and the high school to create a better flow, separating the Woodville traffic from the high school traffic, as well as basically creating a road for construction traffic to kind of get in and out of the site. This road, should this be kind of acceptable, is a road that would only be used between pickup and drop-off times, so that there's no disruption to the students coming to and from school. We also plan to, this also shows, the sequence of how we plan to build the building across the site shown on the lower side of the page, with the 1A and the 1B sections, the classroom wings being built first. And then the auditorium being built next, with the finishing up with the gym. The building does account for most of the real estate on the site, leaving some very tight areas, which we will address when establishing the site perimeter. And then lastly, the construction trailers for Bond and Left Field would be located up on the hill adjacent to the upper lot. This area is out of the way and overlooking the site, but allows the trailers to remain in one location throughout phase 1 while constructing the new building. We have a series of 3D slides, the first of which here shows us establishing the site perimeter, June of 2024, working on initial cuts, as well as establishing supportive excavation on the Hemlock Road side of the site. The next 3D slide shows the foundations underway and the footprint, with the building being established. We'll be utilizing the gate off of Hemlock Road during this time frame to come and go with truck fill in and out of the site. You know, as we did mention earlier, this site does require a bit of a soils management plan, as there's going to be significant cuts in the first phase, along with some significant fills that will be needed to happen after the existing building is removed in phase 2. One solution that did come to mind is potentially using the on-street pit for storage if the town thought that would be appropriate. We did do this at Galvin, which worked out versus paying premium with export and import costs. The work on the access road between the schools at this point would be to bring in the utilities while this road is somewhat less traveled before more of the construction gets underway. And then the next 3D slide shows us starting in the mid of July here, 2024, showing foundations and excavations, continuing with steel erection, now getting underway to get the classroom wings going vertical by September of 2024. The traffic at this point would be able to enter on Hemlock and then exit through the road between the schools. And traffic for foundations can likely be using both gates for this stage of the work. The next 2 3D slides shows us installing the steel for the second classroom wing, as well as the auditorium section. And we are now starting to place slabs on deck in the first wing by middle of October of 2024, which allows other trades to get up onto these floors to allow the follow-on work to continue. Under slab utilities would be excavated and installed once slabs on deck are completed in each of the sections. And then once those get finished, we would be prepping and placing those slabs on grade in each of the sections as they become available. The next 2 3D slides would show us completing the decks in the auditorium and the gym by late December of 24, as well as getting started on the facade and envelope work on the perimeter of the classroom wings. And then the next 3D slide shows the high school looking mostly complete in the final 6 of the 24-month construction schedule, with still a lot of hardscape and landscape work all around the exterior, as well as any facade punch list leading into the startup and commissioning phase, which will also lead us up to FF&E and move in for the June of 26 timeframe. And Jonathan is going to speak to you about our plan for phase 2. John.
Yeah, so picking up where Jerry left off here, completion of the new high school. At this point, the temp fence goes around the existing high school, start to begin demolition and abatement activities. Key here is freeing up space in the new plaza entry to get access to the front of the building. At this point, we're also moving our construction trailers down the hill to the other side of Hemlock for closer access to the action. This also shows the demolition sequence. So the key with this, as I said, is moving towards Farm Street, freeing out space to complete plaza and hardscape places. Demolition, we don't believe is going to be at a point in the summer for this plaza to be opened up. So we made some temporary provisions for this. It would suggest that buses drop off on Hemlock temporarily and students be guided down to the main entrance. We've also maintained that temporary access road that we had between Woodville and the existing high school, turning that into a temporary turnaround loop for parent-student drop-off. If we get into some of the 3D slides. So at this point, we've shifted construction fence around the existing school, and we'll be beginning to demolish as we work north towards Farm Street, freeing up a little bit more space for us here. Next slide will show the completed plaza. At this point, we're freeing up about 70 parking spaces in the front, along with a more traditional drop-off path for students. Also gives us the chance to develop that loop turnaround that we had into additional parking spaces that could be used soon after Plaza turnover. Again, key with getting this Plaza done is to have it done before first frost in the fall of 2026. As we work into the winter, spring, and summer of 27, focus shifts to prepping the site, getting turf and field online, and brings us to this point with the completed school, and looks great.
Thanks, John. So on safety excellence, like I said, safety is paramount on all of our projects. Our EMR rating of 0.62 is something that we're very proud of, and we definitely attribute to our daily pre-task planning. And what this is a morning huddle that we do with all of our foremen on site to discuss with each crew what they plan for the day, just to make sure that we eliminate any overlap with them. And then on past school projects, I've also had morning discussions with the principals to just to chat with them and let them know of major events that we're working on, as well as to find out from them if the school has anything to note that we should be sharing with our crews that's going on at the school each day. Our don't walk by policy is something that involves everyone in and around the site. I have an open door policy. Welcome any feedback from anyone on our crew, as well as anybody from the faculty and staff, should they see something that raises concerns involving our work. Communication is key to a safe project, especially the ones in and around the schools. The think like a parent approach is something I know firsthand, having been a father of two daughters that actually attended Galving during most of the construction of that job. We keep our students in mind for planning of all daily pre-tests, of all daily tasks. Stephanie's going to walk you through the QC process that we do at Bond.
Thanks, Jerry. So I mentioned earlier that I will have a specialized role on this project, managing our QC quality control plan. And we're going to, well, quality control is everybody's job. I'm going to take the lead on managing this QC plan through an electronic platform called BIM 360. We use this platform because it allows us to walk the site and have all the information available at the tips of our fingers. So this is RFIs, submittals, which we process through this system. Dario's a whiz at this. But it also includes drawings and the coordinated model. With this platform, if there's any deviations from these, we can turn them into trackable items, which won't be closed until the issue is resolved. I'm hoping, though, not to have too many of those, because one of the ways we're going to set benchmarks for success is through a building mock-up. As you can see on the left, which is a mock-up from our Weymouth job, it's taking a small structure and installing various building conditions before we actually get do the real thing, so to speak. This allowed the team there and will allow us to really review details, perfect and understand the order of where things go, and especially details with dissimilar material. It really helps to be able to do a practice run before we permanently install it. Especially with interior finishes, we'll be able to mock those up as well and come to an understanding with our team, with our trade partners. These are the expectations of what we want to see in regards to quality of install. And Dario can tell you a little bit more too, how we use the BIM 360 platform for punch list and closeout.
Awesome. Thank you, Steph. Yes, we have a robust workflow for identifying, tracking, and rectifying all punch list items through BIM 360. All of our punch list protocols incorporate their entire team, including the design team or even the permanent building committee members. Our processes allow us to track all punch list items in real time from cradle to grave. A quick note I have on closeout: we don't wait until the 25th hour for closeout. We start tracking and gathering this information at 50% completion. Bond utilizes software called Pipe Closeout. This next-gen platform organizes all of your closeout package in an organized and user-friendly fashion. Trust me, I'm sure your facilities folks will be a big fan of getting rid of all those old-school, messy, unorganized binders. And on that note, I'd like to flip it to Olivia to talk about how we manage MEP systems here at Bond.
Dario, so QAQC, like Steph said, in safety is everybody's responsibility. And one of the things I love about Bond is everyone in the company takes so much pride in their job and in the projects that we work on. So we really start implementing on day one that quality, and in the model is one way that we try to scrub that out in the very beginning. So hopefully we can work with SMMA and partner with them to receive the models early on, so that we can start looking at constructability reviews and bring our experience on verifying scope so that we're going after tighter bids. Early accessibility for facilities maintenance is also at the forefront. And we go as far as modeling, your standard 8 to 10 foot ladders underneath a ceiling grid to make sure that you can get a body up there to physically access a routine valve or fan coil unit. So you can see that image is the clearance zone above a ladder where we were trying to make sure that we could maintain. The last thing we want to do is leave you with a fan coil unit above a piece of millwork that you have to climb on after the fact to get to it. So we really strive for that quality in the initial modeling effort. And then on the next slide, once we get the subs on board, I'm not going to talk about your typical coordination process because that's table stakes in the industry right now. But one thing I do want to harp on is that we have extensive experience with complex laboratories and auditoriums with really advanced AV and acoustic rigging packages, using the model to pre-plan and really vet out those areas has been crucial on previous projects, and we're ready to take that on this job. And a big differentiator for us at Bond is our in-house laser scanning. So we actually implement this as part of our QA/QC process. And what this does is it allows us to take the model that we spend so much time detailing out and make sure that we're building in the field per the model. So before concrete is placed, we'll go out and scan the deck to verify sleeves and any box outs. And this is a perfect example of we had to switch the rotation of a duct main during coordination. This is a plan view of a shaft looking down at duct risers coming up through the building. You can see, human error exists. It's unavoidable and things happen. But by implementing laser scanning before a major milestone like a concrete placement, this allows us to implement series of checks and balances, and the subcontractors honestly love this because we can catch it when it's early on, and we make sure to give them kudos when they're installing properly as well. It's about highlighting the good work at the same time. On the next slide, you can see how we also take it a step further during QA/QC by tracking the components in a model. So this is the entire HVAC system for Fitchburg City Hall. Every component in green was selected and statused. So this was a snapshot of a particular week that we were able to then push into a dashboard platform. So we could analyze percentage complete of installation for the MEP trades. This was incredibly helpful during the monthly meetings with the client so that we could track our own installation against the schedule, and then also the billing for the MEPs. So this was just a helpful tool to really start analyzing on a data type of platform. And then once we get into commissioning, commissioning starts at day one. We want to understand expectations so that we know which path we're going to walk down when we pre-plan the job. One of our secret weapons on the team is Josh Wilder. He's our senior MEP systems manager. He spent majority of his career working for Siemens, and controls can be very overwhelming and very intimidating, but it's one of the last things that we're trying to close out at the end of the job. He is fluent in that language and knows how to really dive in and make sure that those expectations are met and fully vetted during the submittals and the pre-functional and functional checklists. And he will also be involved in barcoding the equipment so that if you want to transfer all of the data that we collect along the way in the project with a facilities maintenance system, we can easily bring that information in and make it an easy transition once we close out the job.
So community engagement is something very important to Bond, especially with a community that we already feel so connected to. In addition to providing content and outreach for students, parents, and the community at large with how they're going to access the site for each phase, we also want to work together with the school department to involve the kids in this project to any way we can. Like we did with Galvin, we had classroom sessions that tied the curriculum to the project that was going on right outside their window. We did some similar things at Quincy. And actually, some of the things that we did at Quincy that would love to initiate for your project, we actually helped them establish a junior building committee. And we met with them regularly. We had tours for them and meetings for them. They developed a monthly newsletter that went back to the rest of the student body. And it sort of got them all engaged and felt like they were really part of the process. It was super successful. Olivia and I also did a series of presentations to the high school kids. We really showed them that the use of technology in construction, sort of all that fun stuff Liv just talked about, has opened up a tremendous amount of new career paths in the construction industry that didn't exist in the old school ways of doing construction. Would love to work with your kids to do something similar for the high school project. So before I hand it over to you for Q&A, I would like to ask if we could reserve a very short amount of time at the very end for Frank to say a few words, and we can turn it back now to you for Q&A.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Joe, would you like to ask some questions? Joe, you're on mute.
As I've done with others, I'd like to know from your point of view, after looking at all the preliminary design work and everything that's been done, what do you think are greatest challenges for this job?
I think the ones that we highlighted during the presentation with the risk register are sort of some keys. Obviously in this day and age, we've got the issues with escalation, we've got issues with long lead times, we've got workforce issues. I mean, that's really the big thing. One of the reasons why, as John mentioned, that we didn't propose an alternate schedule was really based on those risks. If with the lead times that we're seeing now, there's really no opportunity to start the job earlier. It doesn't seem to make any sense unless we were going to put undue burden on the design team. I think they need the time to design this building appropriately, making sure that everything's vetted out before we're putting pressure on them for early work. And then, as John mentioned, that the schedule that was outlined in the RFP that Left Field provided was actually really consistent with what we would do without even knowing what you were thinking. And we just didn't see any real smart way to accelerate either without spending a tremendous amount of money in acceleration costs. So we think, the schedule works, but it does accommodate for those significant risks for cost escalation and long lead times. That's really the big thing we're really focused on right now.
Can I add one more thing to that, Joe? We're racking our brains and during pre-construction, I'd love to open this school and figure out how to have, we won't be able to get the entire plaza, but some appropriate approach, right? Doug, you saw the logistics plans, right? It's kind of like an alleyway up there. It's so tight. We've got to figure out how to make it at least a presentable entrance to the front door as well. Not that that's a challenge for the job, but I think I kind of take that as a personal challenge. There's got to be a way to do that as we start to kind of develop things, just to push that forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think you guys know that I'm pretty consistent in my questioning and asking about the GMP and allowances and holds. And we did a great job, I think, at the Galvin of bringing the project to fruition on time and on budget. And I would expect to do the same thing here. How do you see your role in creating the correct GMP?
I can start, and then Jonathan, if you want to jump in, feel free. I mean, ultimately and that's one of the reasons why too, we didn't want to accelerate or even propose to accelerate the design schedule. The better those documents are, the better we can understand what we need to do for the proper holds and allowances, especially as it relates to those early packages. John mentioned it's not too soon, not too late, right? So if we need to release the steel because of the procurement time, we never want to be in a situation where we're sitting around waiting for product, right? So we're always looking at what the best turnaround time is for procuring certain items and when we need to put it in the ground, and then making sure that, for instance, with steel, we release it early enough where if we have to have holds and allowances that will allow for that steel to be modified through the final design phase, we're still procuring it in time to get it when we need it on site. But for instance, we've got enough money buried in the holds and allowances for steel to be reworked or have, so we avoid, costly changes post GMP. So that's just one example, Chip, but there's going to be a series of those where it's all tied to when we release those documents. And then of course, doing as much due diligence as possible during pre-construction to make sure that we're vetting out anything that may be slightly challenging or maybe have any levels of ambiguity to make sure that we're not waiting till the last second and it becomes a change order. We want to make sure we capture anything we can. And then of course, like we've done on many projects, including Galvin, having some fail safes, right? So if there's an opportunity to delay the landscape package, for instance, we may defer some costs for certain things to release that package at the last responsible moment. And that package may be stripped down or it may be extremely robust based on when we need it. So I think timing of the packages is really one of the biggest things to make sure we're avoiding some of that sort of cost creep and making sure that we have the proper amount of holds and allowances without being over the top either, right? Because that doesn't do anybody any good. If we have excessive holds and allowances to get there, you're going to be chopping program out to meet your budget. And that's not going to, in the end, be a successful project for Doug. So there's a balance, and it's going to be a work in progress from the day we go on board to the day we sign the last subcontract.
Thank you.
Doug?
First, thank you for your presentation. I appreciate the how thorough everything was, and I really like the 3D slides. Kind of the images tell a pretty nice story. So thank you for that. I think the concern of principals and superintendents is this notion of really design and adhering to the educational plan while understanding that sometimes you need to make concessions in construction. I'm wondering if you can share some of your experience in kind of helping districts work through those types of scenarios.
Sure. And again, there's plenty of us that can answer this. I'll try to start and see where it goes for you. Realistically, it's going to start from the first estimate. And we need to understand with the design team what the importance is to the program and the importance to the design intent, and find a way to make sure we can maintain that all the way through. We talked about working closely with the design team on evaluating systems and coming up with options. And we can keep those options on the table, depending on what they are, for a long time. So once we understand the level of importance, and we can have a priority list of that with, what we need to hang on to, what's deal breakers, what might be able to be changed or adjusted as we go through the sort of windows of risk, we call it, right? Knowing that sort of priority list and working closely, because that's really about communication. We're not going to propose anything that's a deal breaker, right? Or that you can't get reimbursed for, or whatever it is. It's going to be a work in progress all the way through to make sure that we completely vet these systems out and make sure that we're getting you exactly what you want without compromising your program.
I think, Dave, if I could just jump in, just as an example as well, Doug. So in Weymouth, we'll have to get you down there to see it. It's actually a wonderful project, but they've got a very high-end kind of collaborative public space with the cafeteria joins in and some of their other specialty classes. And initially that space is very expensive, but they identified that as a priority, so we went through when we were establishing the budget, and, we worked with the design team and the client, the town, to make some decisions. So like in the I'll call it the standard classroom, we chose a flooring that was slightly less expensive, a ceiling that was still very nice, but a couple bucks you save per square foot on something that large. And then the priority was to keep the finishes high end and really nice in that major public space. And we do that all the time on our projects. And that's part of getting on early, which, you know, applaud the town for doing that on this job. Working with you folks, understanding where those priority spaces are, so that as we're going through, we can continue to work with Helen and her team to say, hey, maybe, you know, this is a little bit back of the house. Can we take a few bucks out of this or out of that, so we can preserve the, you know, kind of the priority spaces and the finishes associated there as well.
Thank you.
Tim, do you have a question?
I do. One of the considerations for our project is using all electric mechanical systems. I'm interested in whether or not you've had experience with this process, and if so, if you've had success, or if not, if you have opinions.
Yep, I'll let Frank elaborate a little bit more, but in our proposal, we did highlight the Sprague Science Building down at Bristol Community College. That was a net zero ready all electric science building. It was one of the first of its kind, actually, at the time it was built. And so that we definitely have experience in all electric. It's becoming more and more mainstream at this point. Obviously, a project this size, it's going to be, you know, somewhat challenging, but we do have that experience. And like I said, Frank, I don't know if you want to add to that, but we do.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the things we would do, Tim, is to bring our Vice President of District Energy. We're doing this on major scale plant work, actually, all over, actually up and down the East Coast right now. So, you know, there's trade-offs. Obviously, there's costs, decisions there. You know, within this budget, if this is the budget, I'm not sure we'll be able to work those in. You know, I think without something to really support the all electric, you know, like honestly, a small windmill, a small turbine, some photovoltaic, battery storage, things like that. It comes, you know, to just have it be all electric and take all the electric off the grid. I think you'll find that while it might make the building efficient, it's actually not really trying to get to what you're doing. If you can introduce some renewable as part of the project to drive that electric and have the battery storage, because that's the challenge, right? You know, you have a photovoltaic field and you get all the power you need during the day, but if you don't have the appropriate battery storage to kind of take that reserve power, put it away until you need it at night, you know, you kind of lose the battle. So we absolutely have the skill to kind of analyze that up and down with the engineers, with our district energy team who do all this all electric stuff all day, every day.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Ellen?
Thanks. I actually really appreciate you just coming out and saying we recognize that this is our first high school project. You know, don't gild the lily, but coming in with examples, right, of ways in which this project is similar. And so I guess along those lines, you know, not having maybe perhaps as much MSBA experience in the various processes and submittals, requirements, et cetera. I mean, what is your thinking in terms of coming up to speed with MSBA?
Helen, I'm just to be clear, that we really don't have a lack of MSBA experience. I've prior to coming to Bond, I was on your side of the fence designing schools for 21 years. And our team has delivered a few MSBA projects. So we feel very comfortable with all aspects of MSBA, especially with, you know, as this team on, you know, with the owner side and left field can attribute to. We got really creative with Galvin and making sure that we maintained as much reimbursables as possible when things came up. You know, we always had an eye on, hey, how can we package this, or how can we word this so that we don't potentially lose MSBA reimbursement on this change or this update. So my experience, I mean, I've been working on K-12 for my entire 30+ year career. So MSBA is, we know them very well, and you know, that's kind of my responsibility for Bond in general, is to make sure that my experience gets filtered out to the entire team, and that's exactly what we're going to do here.
Yeah, and Helen, just to add to that, you know, prior to joining Bond, I used to run Shawmut's local. I'm the one who got Shaman into MSBA work, did the first high school with them, first K through middle school over at Shaman. I kind of got them into that business as well. So I've got a much longer history as well on the MSBA rules, regs, 149A, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Okay, I had a quick question. I was just really curious with the northeast side of the school there, or on the left hand in this picture, where you have the auditoriums, the gymnasium, and some of the a kitchen, some of those spaces that take a long time to construct and finish out. You guys ended up on that side finishing as you moved along through the building. And I was wondering if you even considered flipping that and doing the reverse and working your way out and ending up with on the classroom side.
We absolutely did, Lynn.
Which is more repetitive work and easier to finish.
Yeah, we absolutely did. When we considered the fact that the classrooms are 3 stories and we can get to those much quicker, but also have a lot of manpower over there doing that sort of repetitive work, we did look at 2 options, and that's the one we settled on, so that we could get out of that area as quick as we could, getting as much of the MEP trades going as quick as we could. And it's very similar to what we did for the Weymouth School. And as Frank mentioned, if anybody has any time, it's definitely worth going out to. It's a masterpiece of design and execution. But we specifically ended with the auditorium in that project too. And it serves 2 things. One, we do recognize auditoriums take a long time, but we can concentrate effort there, where with the classroom wings, we can spread out a lot of work and get those turned over first so that you can get your FF&E in early, right? So that's kind of how our schedule is built. If you look at P6 schedule, we're turning over those classroom wings for you to furnish way months ahead of the actual date of substantial completion for the overall phase of the project. And that's exactly how we're doing Weymouth, where the design team's punch listing that first classroom wing that we're turning over while we're still doing like first stage finishes in the last sort of section. So very strategic in that approach. And that was why we did it. We thought you could furnish and punch out all those classroom wings early and make sure that there's a sort of a fail-safe plan for turnover, getting your FF&E in, getting your equipment turned on, all vetting out all those systems for the classrooms, which definitely has a lot of furnishings, et cetera, while we're wrapping up the auditorium per se. So yeah, we gave that a lot of thought, actually.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our questions. And Frank, do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, just super quick. We would love to do this project for you. You know, this team is ready to go, dedicated. And, you know, I don't think you'll find a harder working group of professionals than the folks on this team, and a more committed group of professionals. So that's it. Thank you for the opportunity. We truly appreciate it, and look forward to your decision.
Thank you. We'll be in touch soon.
All right, great.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Do I need to, I did this earlier to my team, so I'm just going to ask a question. Do I need to like give the host back to someone so I don't like close out the meeting?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Please, thank you.
So,
Joe, can you grab the host back?
yeah,
So what do I do?
You just
Withdraw
grab the
the
host
host?
back.
I withdrew Frank.
all right, I'm out. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks for,
Bye-bye.
bye. Okay, that's it. Do we want to go through?
Not quite it.
What?
Not quite it. Not comes that.
Well, no, I mean, in terms of the interviews.
Yeah.
Do we want to go through the evaluation matrix, or do you have any questions based on the evaluation matrix I sent over today? The one big long spreadsheet is the one that had the blanks in it, is for the proposals. The interviews are straight 1, 2, 3, 4. And then once we do have the price proposals now in a comparative matrix. We just finished those up. We're not supposed to open those until after the interviews, and I haven't seen them, but Tim, not being a voting member, took them and put them in a spreadsheet this afternoon to have them available for us to take a look at. Would you prefer that we send that out to you by email so you can look at it and meet later to do all the rankings, or do you want to try to do them tonight?
I personally would love to try to do them tonight while it's still fresh in my mind after the last 2 nights. If I wait much longer, it could leave my mind.
Okay.
And if we find that as we start, it becomes too long a method or too difficult, then we could go to another night, but I'd love to get started. But I'd like to know it and start the comments prior to knowing what the dollars are.
Yeah, no, we have to rank both the proposals and the interviews prior to looking at the costs. So
So
if
do you want to go
everybody
through
had
it
a chance,
individually or?
well, if everybody had a chance to go through the evaluation matrix and score each of those categories, then if you had the opportunity to do that, then it's pretty easy. We just plug in the numbers. And then we rank the interviews 1, 2, 3, 4. But we can go through each of the categories on the evaluation matrix if you want.
Well, can I ask
mean,
a
do you want-
question? Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
On the evaluation matrix, so the RFP detail sheet, did those numbers tie back to the summary sheet or no? It doesn't look like it. They're not linked?
No, it just once you score them yourselves, then you put your value down based on the average number.
Okay,
So-
and are they
So we
supposed to?
do the average? We do the average? Or you
Let's
do?
just, why don't we do them together? Let's open up can you bring up the evaluation matrix, Tim?
Tim, you know I have problems with other people's names on stuff we're supposed to be filling out. It's a little problem I have.
Yes.
So you did make one that had the correction on it, I think, but
Yeah, you mean it with except right here. Jesus.
I'll just pretend it says Wakefield, not Waltham.
Okay. This one then, or did you want me to bring up the actual ranked one?
I want you to bring up the evaluation.
The ranked one,
matrix.
right?
The ones that are, the one that's blank so that we can go through it together.
Do I need to make him a co-host? Can he bring it up?
Do you are you the host, Tim?
No,
No, I am.
It still says disabled.
I am. You're the co-host now.
Okay.
Anybody?
You can leave that up, but put the other one up.
You mean the second worksheet, right?
Yeah.
You
Or the
probably-
bottom of this worksheet.
Right, you're gonna have to put up the second worksheet. You're also gonna need to decrease the size of the page. It's probably at like 200% right now. Lower right-hand corner.
All right, it looks fine on my screen, so you'll just have to tell me when. Does it look good right now? It looks really bad on my screen.
It's not even up on our screen yet.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, it is. There are multiple alternate realities here.
So you can see it, Lynn, but Chip can't.
We all can see it.
I can't. I've got Waltham High School, the top quarter of the page still there.
Well, I have a whole different one.
Yeah, I have Wakefield Memorial High School CMR.
I don't. What am I doing wrong? Want me to click out of this?
You might be you had the wrong interview, I think, here, Chip. You're in another.
All right, now I'm good. No, now I'm down to the ranking page. Is that what you've got? For the non-price technical proposals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that where everybody's at?
Yes, Chip, you're good.
Let's, if you could show everybody's name there, Tim.
What?
You mean this one? Are you seeing the right
Can you
one?
make it small enough so you can see the whole thing? So you can see that whole category right across? Yeah.
That's it.
That's fine. I can read that.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Okay.
good. So if everybody, if we want to go through and fill out the evaluation matrix sheet, we can, or if everybody's comfortable in knowing what they think their final average would be for each of these firms, we can do 1, 2, and 3 and enter them in by name. Do you want to go through the evaluation matrix sheet, or you want to just jump straight to this, the final ranking sheet?
I'm okay to go to the final ranking.
I'm kind of confused, Lynn.
Okay. Okay. Tim, can you bring up the evaluation matrix worksheet?
Are we going through that, or is that what we're going to go through?
That's what we take the score from that and add into this in this area, but you have to go through a series of questions and rank them 1, 2, or 3 in each of the categories.
All right, so let's just do it. But
Okay.
It's not up though, right?
Right.
Oh,
Tim's
okay,
gotta
good.
put it up.
I'm looking for it.
Do you still see the other one?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking at something. Okay, hold on. Let me unshare the screen and see if that does it.
Back to your face.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Right.
All right.
All right, so column C is Shamet, the first column.
C is it's alphabetical. C is Bond, D is Shamet, E is Skanska.
Well, then this isn't the one I did, so move it all the way down.
Oh, it is Shamet. Okay, you switched it around. Okay, sorry.
All right.
So this is like it was, okay, and this is by when we saw it, when we talked about it.
Right, so if under management and staffing plan, if it's not advantageous, you put a 1. If it's advantageous, you put a 2. If it's highly advantageous, it's a 3. So do we want
So
to
the
do
order is what, Shamet?
Shamet, Skanska, Suffolk, and Bond? It's the order of the interviews, really. Or no, it's not really.
No, it's not actually.
It's
But
not.
close,
Close, yeah.
close. Just Skanska and Shamet are switched.
Reversed, yeah.
Okay, so let's just go through and we can each read off our number 1 through 3.
Okay.
Do we give you the numbers?
Well, you can give them to us now and we can put them in.
Let's
You
do
wanna
it. Let's give it a shot.
Okay,
Just get
Chip,
going.
what was your feeling about the management and staffing plan for Shawmut?
A 2.
Okay, can you add 2 on that line, Tim? Right there. And then how about,
Skanska was a 3. Suffolk was a 2. Bond was a 3.
The typing file because it's not on mine end.
no?
Yeah, it's not.
Lynn, can you just do it
Yeah,
manually?
yes.
Yeah, do it manually, Lynn.
Hold on, let me just get a,
You gotta put the thing back up though, Tim.
Yeah, you gotta keep the, Tim, you gotta keep it up. Guys, in the future, we gotta be a little better prepared.
There is no more future in this, I hope.
I know, I hope.
okay, so Chip is 2, 3,
2, 3, 2, 3.
2, 3. Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Okay,
1, 2, 2, 3.
okay. Next, Doug.
Yeah, so I'm just going from the spreadsheet that Tim shared earlier. So it goes Bond, Shawmut, Skanska,
No.
Suffolk.
No, it's the other way, Doug.
So Suffolk, Skanska, Shawmut, Bond.
Shawmut, Skanska, Suffolk, Bond.
So I'll just say which, and you just
Yeah.
put it in the correct cell. All right?
Yeah.
How's that?
There you go.
Good. And so management and staffing plan, Bond 3, Shawmut 3, Skanska 3, Suffolk 1.
Ellen,
Shawmut 3, Skanska 3, Bond 3, Suffolk 2.
okay, and mine is Shawmut 3, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1, and Bond 3. Okay, so that's for management and staffing. And 2 is pre-construction services plan.
Yep. Yep. Shawmut. 1. Don't
move it.
Don't move it, please.
Okay.
It's tough enough for me to read it to begin with. Shawmut 1, Skanska 2, Suffolk 2, Bond 3.
Joe?
Same, Shawmut 1, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1, Bond 3.
Helen, or Doug?
Bond 2, Shawmut 2, Skanska 2, Suffolk 2.
Helen?
Shawmut 3, Skanska 2, Suffolk 2, Bond 2.
And mine is Shawmut 3, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1, and Bond 3. Okay, so overall
Project plan,
project plan.
that's what it says.
Construction services plan.
Oh, we've done, we just did
that.
pre-construction, now we're
Oh,
construction.
yeah, I'm sorry. Construction services plan.
Shawmut 1, Skanska 1, Suffolk 2, Bond 3.
Joe?
Shawmut 1, Suffolk, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1, Bond 3.
Doug?
Bond 3, Shawmut 2, Skanska 3, Suffolk 2.
Helen?
All twos.
I have Shawmut 2, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1, and Bond 2. Overall project plan?
Can you distinguish what that means as compared to project scheduling and phasing?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically how they transition from pre-construction to construction, and is there any continuity with staffing from one to the other? That sort of thing.
Okay.
Their continuity between
So
approaches.
this doesn't have to do with logistics or
No, because
project
that comes,
schedule or any of that?
yeah, that's lower
That
down on
comes
the
a little
list.
bit later.
Yeah, I saw it lower down the list, but I got confused by the overall word.
Right.
This is a consistency or smooth transition between pre-construction and construction, and in that typically you want some staffing to
Yeah, I had all twos.
transition over to keep that continuity of what you did during pre-construction to make sure it gets implemented in construction.
I was all
Does that make
twos.
sense?
Yes.
Joe?
Yeah, Shawmut 1, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1, Bond 3.
Doug?
Bond, this is overall project plan.
Yes.
Kind of the continuity that they just talked about.
Yeah, and so I gave 2s across the board.
Helen?
Shawmut 3, Skanska 3, Suffolk 1, Bond 2.
I had Shawmut 3, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1, Bond 3. Prior project performance?
Shawmut 2, Skanska 3, Suffolk 2, Bond 2.
Shawmut 2, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1, and Bond 3.
So
Doug?
can you just say that again? Say it again?
Project performance or, project
And
performance
references.
references. And, I guess I should have, did you send out the references from the RFQ period, Tim, that you did?
Yeah. We did a while back, yes.
Does anybody want to
Bond-
hear an overview of the references?
No, I can give you,
Okay.
so Bond 3, Shawmut 2, Skanska 3, Suffolk 2.
Helen?
I didn't see the analysis, so I'm gonna have to pass on that.
Okay.
Were there any standout plus or minus, or they all just wash out?
They pretty much all, in my opinion,
They're
they're all
pretty much they're fine. References, right? They were
Okay.
fine.
All right, then give them all 2s
Yeah, pretty much.
for me.
And I wanted to say that Shane Nolan called today on behalf of Skanska to give them a reference. But they were all, there were no bad nor really, really great references. And for that reason, mine's 2 across the board as well. The next is a comparable public work experience. Chip?
Yeah, I had Shawmut 2, Skanska 2, Suffolk 2, Bond 1.
Joe?
2s across the board.
Doug?
Twos across the board.
I said that first.
Helen?
I said it first.
Right, you did.
Shawmut 2, Skanska 2, Suffolk 2, Bond 1.
I had Shawmut 3, Skanska 3, Suffolk 3, and Bond 3. Oh, no, Bond was 2, sorry. Let's see, project schedule.
This is whether we liked or disliked their schedule.
That they
Or
addressed the
thought of their
schedule
schedule.
and told us that whether or not we were, you know, if they just whether or not
Okay.
we could meet the schedule
So
that we outlined,
Shawmut 2,
or if they had any differences.
Shawmut 2, Skanska 1, Suffolk 2, Bond 3.
Shawmut 2, Skanska 2, Suffolk 2, Bond 3.
Doug?
Bond 3, Shawmut 3, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1. I'm sorry, excuse me, Skanska 2.
So you had Shawmut 3, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1, and Bond 3.
Correct.
Helen?
Twos across the board. They all said they could meet the schedule, didn't show us anything. There was one that gave a little alternate, but I don't know that it gained much.
Right, and mine's the same, 2 across the board. They didn't do anything inventive with it.
I actually had a
Well,
problem with Skanska's telling us they were taking down part of the building
yeah, and they did an
and taking
alternate
out the
schedule, but
fields
it
for
was
parking. I mean,
it was 2
Skanska-
months later, not
Yeah.
earlier. So,
Right.
Building information modeling.
What does that mean?
That's where you saw them talk about running the plans through clash detection and modeling it so they can see any issues.
Oh, okay, all right,
You know,
all right, yeah.
I had 2 across the boards.
2 for Shawmut, 2 for Skanska, 2 for Suffolk, and 3 for Bond.
Doug?
I had for Bond, I had 3 for Shawmut. I had 3. I had 2 for Skanska and 2 for Suffolk.
Helen?
Same as Doug, Shawmut 3, Skanska 2, Suffolk 2, Bond 3.
I had 3, 2, 1, 3. Project logistics plan.
Shawmut, I had a 2. Skanska, I had a 0. Suffolk, I had a 2. Bond, I had a 3.
2, 1, 2, 3.
Bond, I had a 2. Shawmut, I had a 2. Skanska, I had a 1. And Suffolk, I had a 2.
Helen?
Shawmut 3, Skanska 2, Suffolk 2, Bond 1.
I had Shawmut 3, Skanska 2, Suffolk 2, and Bond 2. Okay, financial capacity.
I had, everybody could do it, 2s.
Same here, 2s across the board.
Same.
Same.
Same. Okay. Then safety history.
I had 2, 2, 2, 3.
2213.
I had twos across the board.
Did Shawmut really have the worst score there? Was that in the right spot? Or was that, should that have been with Suffolk?
Can you scroll up, Tim, to look at the modifiers? Right there.
Read it.
Who's
So you
the-
said,
I don't think the most recent ones for Suffolk have hit the
yeah,
safety history yet.
and I'm sorry, the first column is Shawmut, right?
Yes.
So they have the, on the books here, they've got the worst numbers, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Then I said, 1, Shawmut. I thought Skanska 3, Suffolk 2, Bond 3.
I have the same scores. Okay. And then can you scroll back down, Tim? Self-performing work. All of them had, you want to go to the category of self-performing work up above. All of them had some level of self-performing work. Shawmut had miscellaneous carpentry, concrete formwork, doors, windows, millwork installations, demolition, survey, cleaning, protection, temp protection, BIM and MEP startups. Skanska had civil, site work, utilities, concrete, foundations, piles, miscellaneous carpentry, demo, safety, cleaning, protection. And Suffolk had equipment supply, concrete, carpentry. They do own a company called Fuse that does a lot of different things, cleaning, temp protection and all that as well. And then Bond had site work, carpentry, drywall, partitions, millwork, doors, frames, hardware installations, cleaning, specialty installations. So they all had some level of self-performing work. So Chip, do you want to,
Yeah, I had twos across the board.
Joe?
2212.
Doug?
2212.
Helen?
All twos.
I had all twos as well. And then the last category is legal proceedings.
2212.
Joe?
2213.
Doug?
2212.
Helen?
Same as Doug.
And mine is the same as well. That's it. So I'll enter those in real quick. And if you guys want to talk about the interviews and rank them 1 through 4.
What is the 4 the highest? Is 4 the best?
No, go to the ranking sheet, Tim.
This
What?
isn't like the DSP?
No.
More points is good?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think,
that's what isn't more
I think
points.
it is. I think it is, but go to the ranking sheet.
And it says ranking 1 through 5.
That's the ranking sheet spreadsheet, Tim.
So
Yeah,
ranking
the other
one.
sheet, the other
Wrong
sheet.
sheet.
Oh, that other sheet.
We're
Yes.
back to the simple sheet.
Yes. This needs to be The rest of this needs to be filled in once we go through it, but we'll clean this sheet up and get all the information in with the final rankings. Do you have the other spreadsheet, Tim?
This is the one he had up before, right?
Yeah. the
Yes.
one we Started at.
I didn't realize I was muted. I've been talking this whole time.
Oh.
Did you, which one are you seeing? Because
The
I
one
get
he had
the,
up first.
We're seeing the wrong one.
okay. You're seeing the what, the CM ranking, right?
Yes. No, we're seeing the, yes, the technical proposal.
We now want the interviews. Okay,
So what do we do here?
4 is for first, 3 is for second,
Is that right?
2
Yes.
is for third, 4th is for 1. So
Yes.
4 is the highest.
Correct.
Go ahead, Joe.
4 is the best to go down, right?
Yep.
All right, bond 4.
Enter it as you go, Tim.
Oh, you, Shawmut
Shawmut.
2. Number 2. Skanska, number 3. Suffolk 1.
Bond 4. Shawmut 3. Ganska 1. Suffolk 2.
Wow, I wouldn't have guessed that, Chip. Mine is
You didn't
4-3.
understand that I hated Skanska's presentation.
Got it. Mine is 4-3-2-1.
You just like it in sequence, Doug.
He's an engineer by trade.
Oh, okay, that's the reason.
Bond 3, Shawmut 4, Skanska 2, Suffolk 1.
Uh, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That it?
Price proposals. Now the true thing. Where do we stand?
Tim, do you want to run through the price proposals while I'm working on this?
Yep, let me pull it up. Is it still the Excel sheet?
Yeah, you gotta pull it, still the, now you're back to Doug's head.
It doesn't, for some reason, want to it doesn't want to change screens unless I stop sharing for whatever reason on my computer.
Bigger.
Make it bigger.
Yeah, that's good.
Can you scroll down, please? There you go.
Don't read it. And Chip, just before you see it, for Suffolk, that is not a typo on number of months for schematic design duration.
Wow, okay.
I think they made a mistake on their spreadsheet because we told them they only had 3 months of that. But I mean, that is what their sheet says. So.
Who is that, Shawmut?
No, for Suffolk. It's
Oh.
really, it's strange
At this
though.
point, who cares? Yeah.
It's really strange because they broke it down per month like everyone else did, and it was only $3,000 per month. So the fees, that's their fee. I don't know why they did it in 19 months. Like, it's not a typo. They had to have done it intentionally for some reason.
Yeah, I think the math works, but I think it's a typo.
Yeah.
Right. So they're pre-populated cells with the formula.
Right.
Right.
So they like that. Yeah. That would be my guess too, Doug. Yeah. Anyway, it's very strange.
All right, Len, what's the point here as far as?
Okay, let me do it. Let me just talk about it. So are we at the very top? Can you go to the very top, Tim?
We're there, aren't we?
Aren't we at the top?
Okay, all right. So the only things that don't change that are non-negotiable are the overhead and profit and the pre-construction fees. So typically when you're comparing apples to apples, this is what you look at. And this is the order of $3,400,000 for bond, $3,355,000 for Shawmut, $3,610,000 for Skanska, $3,862,000 for Suffolk. So when you look
Suffolk
at all
has to
of,
pay all their lawyers.
so when you look at the total overhead and profit,
We're allowed to work too.
pre-construction fees, it looks like Shawmut is the lowest, Bond is second low, Skanska is third low, and Suffolk is the highest. So you look at
this constitutes 25% of the score, correct?
yes. So when you look at that, and then that's typically the fees that don't change or that are non-negotiable when you go to a contract. These other fees kind of adjust based on schedule duration. So they could change as you move forward,
right.
But you can still see it's on this one, Shawmut is low for bonds and insurance. Shawmut is low. Then it's Bond, then it's Skanska and Suffolk. It's almost the same trend.
Yeah.
And then
that gets plugged into 25% of the score.
Yes, if you rank them 1, 2, 3, and 4.
What you do that? That's what we're required to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Shawmut and Bond are so close. It's
They're
amazing.
pretty close. It's almost negligible.
And Skanska and Suffolk are real close.
Yeah.
Right. In this particular case, it's 2, 1, 3, 4, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So if that goes into because at the end it's
No, it's actually
the opposite.
3, 4, 2, 1.
Yes.
3, 4, 2, 1.
More points for lower
Yeah.
costs.
Yeah.
They switched it on this one.
I'm rank ordering.
Yes. We
I'm rank
understand.
ordering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they do this, do they give out aspirin?
I know.
Okay. So do we have a total yet?
No, I'm trying to input everything in to get a total, so it might be a few minutes, but.
Okay. Can I take a 1-minute break and walk down the hallway and come back?
Yes.
So I don't have to keep my legs crossed any longer.
Good God.
I don't know if it matters at all because Skanska is higher than the other two. Their pre-construction fee is they gave 2 fees in their proposal. The cover letter did not match their breakdown. If that,
it's not going to matter.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know. It was still only, I think it only lowered their fee to 480 instead of 5.
About the guy? Oh, I won't say anything.
Tim, if I can ask a question while we're waiting in suspense. Are we all set for next Tuesday night?
Yes,
Did you
the
get enough
agenda.
responses that we have a quorum?
Yep. I can go over them. I mean, besides you and Joe, here, let me just stop sharing. Do you still need this, Lynn?
No,
Okay.
you're gonna have to put it back up when I give you the numbers, but
Yeah, just didn't want to have my email maybe going out to everybody. Let's see who confirmed.
How many do we need for a quorum, Joe?
5.
You do have 5. I just don't remember who it.
I don't
it is.
care who, as long as we have
Okay.
a quorum. Okay.
You have 5. Yeah, I think you have 6 technically. 6. I never heard back from Janine's a voting member, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I never heard back from her.
She's moving out of town.
Is she really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know.
Do you know where she's going, Joe?
In someplace in New Hampshire.
Oh,
Because her
retirement.
taxes are going up?
Hey, Helen, when are we going to be able to see Theo? Your Theo.
My Theo. Oh, I don't know. He's around the corner. He brought me a plate of handmade pasta for dinner.
Wow.
Wow.
What a good
Yeah,
kid.
it's really, that's when I went off camera. I didn't want to.
Eat in front of everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
does well not bothering you and with all these night meetings.
He's 19. He's 19. He's in college.
You don't have
I
a
hope so.
19-year-old.
Yeah. I got a 21-year-old too.
My 2.5-year-old texts Lynn pictures of his toys when I leave my phone around.
he's my 5th grandchild.
Aw.
He did call you Nana the other day when you called me.
So you're posting that agenda for Tuesday, Tim, and you'll get the link. I cannot make Tuesday, but Brian will be there.
I can send it to you now. It's already posted
Oh,
to
okay.
the project website and the town website.
Okay, I can pull it from there. Okay.
Hey,
Thanks.
Tim O'Brien. Great questions about future maintenance.
Thank you.
And what's really important is as we go through this process and we start talking about finishes and VT, is that you make sure you know, this is the wax I want to use. Let's make sure that when it comes to finishes, you know, did we get you a burnishing machine? Do you have one?
I do.
It was in the Galvin budget.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
You do have it?
we do.
Are you using it?
And
You like it?
they don't seem to use it or like it.
No, because it's actually work.
Yeah,
they
so
have
that's something we're working on.
Yeah, because that takes, you know, so do you know the background of a burnishing machine?
Not in detail, I don't know.
So the real quick down and dirty of it is it takes the last layer or two of wax, and because it's so fast buffing, it heats it up.
Gotcha.
So you're not just laying layer of wax over everything.
Okay.
So it eliminate, like, you can run a burnishing machine over the Galvin floors during Christmas break, and it's like the time of running a scrub washer over them,
Mhm.
and it will give you a beautiful shine.
Look as if you
Like
waxed.
just waxed them.
Yeah, got it. Understood.
What are you waxing? VCT?
Yeah.
How about linoleum? No wax, natural material, rapidly renewable.
How does it stay? How's it
Pretty,
look 5
pretty
years
well.
now?
Pretty well. Yeah. I
Like-
mean, you
like
still
the
have, there's
solid.
maintenance, but there is maintenance, but it's not wax. we'll take you around. We'll show you some projects.
Yeah, the only question I have is the shine.
I know. So listen, I used to work on Chicago Public Schools and everybody likes a shine, right? It's like, if it's not shiny, it's not clean, but you
Oh,
have
well,
to break
that's
that
that's certainly
mentality.
a myth. Yeah.
That's right. It's a myth. So it's just it's a different mentality.
Yeah, no question about that.
So I suppose if the building's turned over with floors that aren't super shiny, that's what folks will be used to, and won't be so interested in that shine over year.
You know what? It's education, right? It's you make the case for it, you understand it, make sure it works for you, and convince everybody.
How about terrazzo floors?
Yes.
Terrazzo.
Yeah.
Are you making a personal
Best.
donation to the dining commons?
Those are 200-year floors.
Easy.
Right?
They'll be there when the building's gone. You'll dig
That's
them
right.
up.
That's right.
I love terrazzo or
Yeah.
in a polished concrete.
Yep. With you there. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun conversations about finishes, I can tell.
It was an interesting conversation. One of the guys, it might have been the guy from Skanska, or one of them was like, "Why do you put so much ceramic tile on the walls?" And then
Chip, I think tonight was my first experience, Chip, where you caused the president of the company to offer his fee in return.
Now, I will tell you an interesting comment. Suffolk did a job for me at Belmont Hill. He closed with the same exact speech.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh, I
you
was
said
gonna
the
say
exact same thing for John.
Word for word, take Belmont Hill out and put Wakefield in. Word for
I had a
word.
feeling that was true.
Yeah, he should have left it off. It was way
Really
better
good.
without. Yeah,
Really turned you off.
it did.
It really does.
He promised the same thing at Durfee and we called him out on it because they weren't gonna finish. And they actually ended up finishing, but we were getting ready to go after it.
He gave me the my phone's on 24/7 speech at Belmont Hill, and you can call me anytime. I called him 5 times at 2 a.m. just to see if it was true, and he never called me back. I am not a John Fish fan, if you couldn't tell.
Couldn't tell. Couldn't tell.
He promised all kinds of sports scholarships at Durfee and never fulfilled any of them.
No, he's a yeah, I'll stop.
How we doing, Lynn?
I'm getting close. Sorry. There's a lot of input.
I should have kept track manually. This whole spreadsheet stuff. Right, Doug? Go back to the old time. Add, divide.
That's what the spreadsheet does for you. That's the beauty of
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll go with the old way.
And it has a slide rule function.
I was waiting for
Doug, you're
that.
probably the only one in this group that knows how to use that.
The old HP calculator, reverse Polish.
We had a computer when I was in 4th grade that did R basic, which was just a number of if-then statements. And we all thought we were programming wizards. It'd be pages and pages and rolls of paper tape.
Probably help you do
bigger
two-pronged
square
crunch.
numbers and things like that. And we all thought we were geniuses. Now your phone does it.
I'm thinking Bond and Shamit have to be pretty darn close on this one.
I think, well,
What?
yes, you're right. 'Cause, 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 yes, you're right. 'Cause
Skanska, I'm just curious, what happened with Skanska in their presentation?
So in my opinion, they just focused so much on this GMP that wasn't a GMP that, I mean, I don't know where they went with half of that discussion.
I've hardly ever seen them do a great presentation. I mean, they're just, I think they need some help with presentations, so.
And, you know, just because you're doing all the numbers, I don't think, you know, there's a feeling you get of who can build, right? Who's a builder, not who's a project manager and all that, because they all have to do that. But who can build? Who knows building? And Skanska just doesn't give me that feeling.
Because they didn't convey it in their presentation, Chip.
Yeah, they don't. And you know,
I mean, they
even the three others I feel are builders, right? They're construction people, they're builders. Skanska just has this like high level. I mean, to me, they feel almost, well, didn't they start their world as OPMs?
No,
it's the other way around.
They're developers. Skanska as a company makes most of their money out of developing buildings.
but-
So they build. So Skanska's construction division is internal to build their own development, and then they started to expand to other sectors.
But Skanska bought Beacon Construction in 96 or 7, right?
Yes.
Remember the old Beacon?
Did Beacon function the same way for Beacon Properties though?
For Beacon Properties, they did. That's correct.
Right. So they're both kind of just internal builders.
Yeah. But in terms of showing up and telling a story, creating a narrative, right? I thought Shamit and comparably did a great job. And I think Bond did as well. And Suffolk, they do that dance. But interesting stuff. I'm just thinking with the pricing and the interview feedback, I'm just thinking that, and I think things might have been pretty close in the other technical aspects. I'm just interested to see how close it's going to be between.
You can, what you can do is show what the score is with the 2 scores you've already put in, Tim, if you want to bring that up.
But you're the last 25%.
Yep.
Right, but I mean, you can see where you stand before we add this last piece.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, that seemed to be what you guys were talking about. So.
Well, I think we're all just anxious to see where we land.
Well, I don't work well under pressure.
We'll be quiet.
Yeah.
You don't have to be quiet. That makes it feel better when you're not quiet.
All right, Tim, put it up. Let's see where we stand.
Can you not where you can't see right now?
Yeah, I can see it. You're
You
doing
keep going.
Keep going.
I can't. Let me see why I can't.
I think it was 2, right?
No, they were the most expensive.
They were the most.
They were most
Oh,
expensive.
oh, they were. You're right. Yep. My bad. Okay.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Here, Doug, you're right on.
I'd say when I reviewed their staffing charts and their price proposals, Skanska and Suffolk, Skanska, I at least understand why their staffing fee is high. They have a lot of people putting in a lot of hours that I don't think is quite necessary. Suffolk's just didn't have the backup to really justify why it had such a high staffing rate. It wasn't as detailed as the other 3.
Was anyone surprised at the insurance that Suffolk carries?
Yeah, and it's because of all their accidents, especially that recently happened.
They had 2 in back-to-back days.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think, which I don't think are even in their safety numbers.
No,
right?
it's not.
Right, because
be.
they haven't, it hasn't been,
It won't
these
be till
haven't been
next year.
published yet.
It won't be
Yeah,
till
ha-
next year. Those are done on a yearly basis through the Department of Industrial Accidents. So they were an insurance rating and the insurance rating board. And those won't be done for another year at least.
How long ago were the accidents, Joe? Do you recall?
Not that long ago.
Well, Suffolk's within months.
Yeah, they just happened.
Months? Yeah.
They're in
Okay.
June, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. And
I
real
mean,
bad.
who remembers the old Macumber company that had 2 accidents that put them out of business? Anybody remember Macumber Construction?
Yeah, that was,
Am I
do
that
remember
old?
them.
Yes.
Who said yes? Doug.
It was actually Tim.
I was gonna say, you I know don't have a right to call me that old. Although I do have you by a couple years.
I mean, Chip, I wasn't following with your coding expertise earlier. I'm just gonna say.
Our basic, yeah. No, and
it was too early. It was too early, late for me. I didn't know, we didn't have anything like that. We were lucky we had pens and papers, right?
And you walked up to school uphill both ways without
Absolutely.
shoes. Without shoes.
And then the nuns would show up and beat the hell out of me.
And deservedly so.
Absolutely.
I will tell you, in terms of people with a great deal of integrity, Frank Hayes is a person of really remarkable integrity.
I couldn't agree more.
Did I see right? He went to Harvard Business.
Yeah. Frank's a smart guy. When
I will
he started with us, he was not president and he was not an owner. So he
came a long way.
He's come
in
a
a short
long
period
way.
of time.
Yeah, but he was very well respected in Shaman. He's been kicked, he's kicked around the construction world a lot, but he's really taken Bond to another level.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Start worst.
You ready to enter it?
Yep.
Okay.
So start with Joe.
And unfortunately, it's the order that we did it on. So Hvac, start with the Hvac category. And it goes in this order. Chip, 1.8. Joe, 1.7. Doug, 2.3. Helen, 2.2. Lynn, 2.4. And then Skanska. Chip, 1.8. Joe, 1.9. Doug, 2.1. Helen, 2. Me, 2.2. Suffolk, 1.9 for Chip, 1.5 for Joe, 1.8 for Doug, 1.7 for Helen, 1.7 for me. Bond, 2.4 for Chip, 2.8 for Joe, 2.3 for Doug, 1.9 for Helen, and 2.4 for me. Okay.
The one thing I can say for all our different opinions, we're all pretty close.
Yeah. So there you have it.
Now we still have to,
very close.
Yeah. So the good news is we still have to get it approved by the PBC and then negotiate with Bond for a final thing. And if we can't, we go to Hvac, right?
Yep.
So bottom line is we got 2 good possibilities.
So how
Okay,
do,
so we're gonna fill in all that matrix. We'll print this. I'll double check everything. And then we're gonna send it out to the permanent building committee tomorrow,
Okay,
just so they can see our process.
all right.
And
Is Mark Sardella still on?
yes,
A moment ago, yeah.
Mark, if you can just do a favor, this is not public yet. It can be after Tuesday's confirmation vote. But please don't do anything with this information till after Tuesday.
technically, the deliberations, well,
Yeah, they're open.
It's actually until you sign a contract, probably.
yeah.
so my question is, when this becomes public, does it become public for all of the firms at the same time in the same way?
Yeah, yes, we will send a letter to everybody. But we don't advertise this, what you see on the screens. Unless
Right.
somebody wants to call us and ask for a debrief, we'll debrief them, but we don't put this out there in the public.
It just becomes bond was selected.
My question is in regard to like, how do we manage Shaman? So if like, say hypothetically, we couldn't come to terms with bond, Chip, like you said, and we needed to move to Shaman, how do we engage them in that conversation? We just wait until it plays out?
Well, you gotta wait until Tuesday before it's awarded,
Okay,
okay?
I get that. Yeah.
Once it's awarded, there's a general, Lynn, I don't know, is it a time period of certain requirements under 149A?
Well, we would immediately go to, I mean,
But there's a price proposal. You go with that, right? I mean, didn't you tell me before the price proposals for the pre-construction?
actually, truth be told, is we can't change, if they don't, bond can say they don't want to accept it or they have some changes to it, but it would, you know, the only
It's
reason.
gonna be bond. They're not gonna change it. They're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And the whole numbers are pretty close to begin with, so it's not. I don't think there'll be an issue. We just have to have the full committee approve it.
Yeah.
So we'll clean this up, share everything with the PBC and ask them, you guys will recommend.
Do you
to
want
them-
it? Do you want to share all these numbers with the PBC? As to all our personal
I
numbers?
typically don't share any of this. If the CMs want to call and talk to us about it.
No,
they
but
can call and we'll
I'm even
debrief
with the
them,
permanent
but-
building committee.
Yeah, but if it goes to them, it's public then.
Yeah, so I'm
Right.
concerned that we don't send this. And we can just discuss it.
Okay, that's fine.
Because
with
quite
me.
frankly, I think, all our personal scores are our personal scores. They shouldn't be public.
Unless someone does a freedom of
Right,
information.
and we just have to, in
Right.
case some request a public records request or
Right.
Yeah,
refuse something.
which is fine.
Just have to have it
But that's-
documented.
We've had that scoring request before. Do you remember, Chip?
Yeah, but I think we blanked out the names.
Right, or you could even collapse the names and just give the totals at the bottom, right?
Yeah, all of that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just don't think our names should go out. We could certainly take the scores there and just do you could show everybody the total numbers.
Yeah, we would blank out
Not how we personally.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juror number 1, juror number 2.
I've had those.
Yeah.
Well, Mark is the only public member that has now seen all of this, so hopefully.
I trust Mark thoroughly.
Okay,
All right.
That he'll
all
do.
right, well,
Yep.
there you have it.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.
See everybody Tuesday, except for
Thank
you, Helen.
Except for me. Next time.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.